I keep on saying good morning, but then I have to realize I'm probably the only one that's even in the morning time when we do this, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. It's 2 in the afternoon for me.
Sound. Is that?
That is bugs. That is bugs.
Bugs.
That is bugs.
Really? Is that like cicadas?
There's bugs in Canada. Pretty much.
It's too cold for bugs. Cicadas, yeah.
Pretty much.
Is that what it is? You have cicadas?
You hear? Yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't think it's actually cicadas. I think. Yeah, I don't think it's beetles. It's definitely like beetles and grasshoppers and crickets, etc. I don't think it's actually a cicada though. I think it's a different kind of bug, but same kind of bug.
What is that? But yeah, so it's not afternoon for you guys or morning for you guys. It's morning for me, technically speaking. I'm down to my last.
If I had some, I'm drinking beer. I already had a tea, so I went with beer. But I wanted a. I don't have any vodka, and I don't have any Worcestershire sauce right now. So otherwise, I probably would have made a prairie oyster.
Where's the caffeine in that?
I drank the caffeine already. It's gone.
So you drink the caffeine, then you go on Caffeine Corner and you're having alcohol, which is normally on rum and coke night. You're crossing the streams.
Correct. Don't tell me what to do. We already did that for my birthday.
Yeah, by the way, you're
literally crossed the streams.
I mean, yeah, there's no set rule on when you like too early or not to drink. Usually it's like Bloody Mary.
That is an old school religious thing that's telling you people what they can do with their life.
Yeah, well, that came from the blue. I
don't know. I'm just saying.
No, there's some truth to that because in the Utah,
some of it,
blue laws, and you can only buy alcohol certain hours, right? And they're really restrictive on that. It's not like California where basically it's almost 24 hours a day you can get alcohol. Almost. In Nevada certainly is, right?
There's a oh god, my brain. I can't do more than one thing right now.
It's the alcohol.
Apparently. Is it? So there's like a couple of things in Canada that piss me off, particularly with the number of people that work night shift. So many people work night shift and bars are not allowed to sell alcohol before 11. Why? My shift ends at 7. I should be able to do what everybody else does and get off their work shift and go to the bar and get a drink if I goddamn want a drink. Also, fuck McDonald's breakfast. 1, I hate McDonald's breakfast. It's nasty. You nasty. 2, if I get off of my night shift work, I don't want your goddamn breakfast. I want a fucking Big Mac. Can you not change that at 4 in the morning? Could you at least wait until like 5 or 6 to change that shit over, please? Or 8. Get both going for a couple of hours and then flip it. I'm sure that'd be a really big pain in the ass for the people who are cooking.
McDonald's will never be a sponsor for us. Yeah, we're never going to have McDonald's sponsorship. By the way, I like McDonald's breakfast.
Good.
See, there's one thing about McDonald's breakfast that I don't know what it is, and this is I've done it a million times, so I know it has to be their breakfast. I think it's part of their nitrates, but they make you very gaseous. McDonald's breakfast, like their McMuffin sandwiches and the sausage, very gaseous. I don't think I'm the only one.
I can make that shit at home, and it's way better.
Oh, I do too. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I can make egg McMuffin, stuff like that. And they're
breakfast
tasty.
Burritos are delicious, but I make them from home. I don't go into McDonald's to get a breakfast burrito.
Yeah.
Like, why? You know who's actually got really good breakfast? Okay, so I've been to A&W in the States, and holy shit, is that nasty. No wonder A&W is like made fun of
another
as garbage
sponsor
in
it's
America.
Not gonna ever get.
However, A&W in Canada, delicious. They are one of my favorites. I absolutely love them. They have poutine. They're one of the few that has a vegan gravy. If you want vegan gravy with your poutine, they have the Beyond Meat burger, which is delicious. They're regular, and you can just get it subbed into any burger that you want. The regular burgers that they have is good, and they serve their burgers and like regular menu the entire time. And they have a breakfast menu for the beginning of the day. And their breakfast is actually good because it's just eggs. It's just like, it's nothing complicated. It's not weird. They don't have special like weird cooking grills that make it rubbery. It's just on the flat top.
You want to read the super chat?
10 out of 10 A&W in Canada.
want to read the super chat?
Oh yeah.
Did you miss it? You have one job. You had one job.
I told you just a minute ago that I couldn't do more than one thing at once today. Ilya for 5 says, "What is a prairie dog, Chesh? Also, love you both." Prairie dogs are like kind of like small gophers that live in the prairie. Oh. Oh, a prairie oyster. Oh. It's called a prairie oyster. Okay, a prairie oyster is like it's like a shot, or depending on how well you swallow. It's a shot of vodka with Worcestershire sauce in it. You don't have to have the vodka. If you want an alcoholic prairie oyster, you don't put vodka in it, but I do want alcohol in it, so it's a shot of vodka, a couple dashes of Worcestershire sauce, depending on how you want. Worcestershire, oh God, we were talking about this the other day, and now I'm all messed up. Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire sauce.
It's made out of anchovy. That literally is made of anchovy. I happen to like anchovies, so.
And a cracked egg. Raw egg.
By the way, people have to forgive me.
You just do it as a shot.
Cough. It is allergy. I think allergy. I can't talk either. Allergy related. Although I'm probably going to get a full physical here soon. But I'm trying to mute every time I cough. So hopefully I've got every single one of them. But I do have this really nasty, persistent cough. Worcestershire
sauce.
I pronounce it Worcestershire sauce. Yeah.
Worcestershire sauce.
That was funny. I mean, like, oh, they're just like little gophers, you know. And prairie dogs, you know, if you go into the like Midwest, because
they're cute.
Oh yeah, they're really adorable, but they're invasive, and so the farmers
really
do go out there.
They suck ass, but they're adorable. Yeah. They're like me. I am the worst, and I annoy the shit out of everybody. But goddamn, am I adorable sometimes?
She's the prairie dog of the internet.
Actually, I was walking. When I went to go get I walked to go get my COVID test done when I went to do it, and I saw a bald eagle, like a fully grown bald eagle, just hanging out, and I was like, "Oh, neat." And then I was walking back, and I didn't see it on the way back, but I did walk past a Tim Hortons because, of course, I did because I live in Canada. And there were seagulls everywhere, and I was thinking about how cool eagles are, and then I looked at the seagulls, and I'm like that seagull. I'm not fancy, and I'm not picky about what I eat. I'm just trying to get by, man.
You know, people
identify with the seagull.
About Worcestershire sauce, but they've also complained when Cheshire started coming around. They're like, it's not Cheshire, it's Cheshire. And she's like, no, it's Cheshire. This is what I'm going by. You know, nobody calls you Cheshire.
I just like watching everybody. I like watching everybody argue about it.
Yeah, well, again, you call yourself what the hell you want to call yourself.
Because I'm a shitlord.
But even the Cheshire cat, I thought, isn't that Cheshire? Or is that the city? So city is Cheshire and the cat is Cheshire, right? I don't know.
Is it?
Who knows these things?
Probably someone from Britain.
It is like you saying Poutine for some reason. Poutine.
What?
Yeah, not Poutine. Poutine. we're all butchering language today.
Oh God.
I've never had poutine. Yeah, I didn't know what the hell it was until a few years ago. And somebody said,
it's so good.
Fries with melted cheese curd and other stuff in it. I'm like, oh, dude, I would like totally have this, but we just don't have it where I'm at. But I'm in Canada.
Okay, that's the thing that I went and visited America last year. Yeah. And one of the things I've noticed is that I really can't do multitask today. Sorry, I had to type something. One of the things I noticed is that America is seriously lacking in the gravy department, which is bizarre to me because, like, it seems like such a thing that America would latch onto is gravy. It's meat juice. I don't understand why it's not a very, like, it's just not really a thing in America.
What? You put it on turkey. You usually just get it in little packets. And treat fecal and ass.
Yeah, what? That's gross.
By the way, Steve, as the former leader, I do think that the peasant, I think she means peasants, not pheasants, but should have a hint as to what is being revealed in the 4-day countdown.
Oh. No, you don't get any hints.
No, there's no hints on that.
No, there's no hints on that. It could be nothing. I could just be counting to 10.
She's just showing your counting skills.
Yeah.
I think there's enough out there.
You might not even get an announcement that day if their announcement. There might be nothing.
Might be Monday. Yeah, it might be Monday.
Might be nothing. Nothing. It's a countdown to when you play a scale on the piano and you don't play the last note, and it's just like, meh.
Yeah. I mean,
Pack it gravy.
Basically, meat juice, hot water, add some flour to it, thicken it, or cornstarch, browning it. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, anybody could make if you can make a roux and you can make a bechamel sauce, you can basically make any of those types of things, right?
You can make mushroom gravy.
Well, we look who graced us with their godlike presence.
Christy Santiago. Christy! Ah, Christy. Christy's great. 10 out of 10. Would fap again. What? Sorry. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I just got here, but I do know that I have no idea what you guys are talking about as I just got here. But I do know that pheasant tastes delicious. I've never had pheasant.
I'm a big fan of pheasant.
They retracted it. I was too fast for you.
Yeah.
Sneaky. I saw what you're trying to do.
Yeah. What's on the internet is out there. But we love you, Christy. Wish you would come around more often. But we know you're busy, though.
Busy. Oh, God.
So, anyways,
in my area.
What are we talking about today, Chesh?
Oh, we got a list. We got a hell of a list. We wanted to talk about what the word hypocrisy means because we see that thrown out a lot and people get it wrong. We might want to touch on context because people actually, like, I put out a poll that people to vote on yes or no if a retweet is able to be out of context, and way too many people said yes. I saw their reasoning as to why, but I'm going to go ahead and say they're incorrect because the retweet itself cannot be out of context because it's a link to the direct context and it's an exact quote. So what you can do is you can lie and misrepresent what the context actually is, but the tweet and retweet itself cannot be out of context. Oh, look, I talked about it. We're done. Okay, moving on. Hypocrisy. We wanted to talk about Grice's Maxims, which is the maximum of quantity, maximum of quality of like how to phrase and argue and communicate. And the cooperative principle, which is essentially social contracts in conversation.
Yeah, they're intricately related. The cooperation principle is basically a Maxims and other things combined. But we have a couple super chats.
Helios says that playing a musical scale without playing the last note is a sin. Two says, all this pheasant talk is making me happy. Oh, that's good. And Boy of Ink for 2 says, Arrow 404, Monry from Kyle not found.
Yeah, I think, again, we're butchering words.
Oh, they did mean money. I thought they were being sassy. They actually did mean money.
And the first one from Josiah might be, all this pheasant talk is making me hungry. You know, I don't know. Who knows? You know, because I'm getting hungry too. All right, so hypocrisy, man, this is one of those things that is probably the most ubiquitous thing on the internet. And again, as Cheshire pointed out, a lot of people I don't think even know what the term actually entails, right? I mean, they just like, oh, you're just a hypocrite. But you ask them, okay, what is being hypocritical here? Now, I put in the video description what I like is the definition, which is straight from Wikipedia. It's not the Google definition. And again, definitions are descriptive; they're not prescriptive. And matter of fact, the cooperative principle isn't even prescriptive. It actually describes what Grice thought would be a normal way to approach conversation. I call it the principle of rational discourse. He's also called it that. That's where I got it from. So the cooperative principle is also known as the principle of rational discourse. But Wikipedia says, hypocrisy is the contrivance of false appearance of virtue or goodness while concealing real character traits or inclinations. They also go on to say, especially with regards to religious or moral beliefs, which I definitely agree with, but just not necessitated by a religious or moral belief. Hypocrisy is basically saying one thing but doing another in this regard, right? Having a false virtue and say, look, oh my God, I'm going to call this person out for this when they're doing the exact same thing, if not even worse, or not even caring about what the issue is. They're just, they're somebody that does a specific thing, and then, oh, look at this other person, they're doing it, and it's almost like projecting their hypocrisy. That's your chat.
Sure. Hanson for Two said, happy, not hungry for pheasant. I'm no cannibal.
Oh, is he a bird? Does he identify as a bird? Ah.
I guess so.
Oh, yeah, I think he identifies as a bird. Yeah. That's why. So, anyways, what do you got to say on this, Cheshire? Because like I said, we see a lot.
Well,
I want to
look at a couple of different definitions. So the one you had said was hypocrisy is the contrivance of a false appearance of virtue or goodness while concealing real character traits or inclinations. The dictionary one, because if you're going to disagree with it, we should probably tell people what it is.
Sure.
Like the one on Google is noun, the practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform, or pretense.
Which is perfectly fine.
Then
too, right?
I also wanted to pull up the Urban Dictionary definition, because sometimes we like to use that because sometimes it is variative of what is commonly being used. So when one douchebag calls out another douchebag for being a douchebag, and the second douchebag responds to this by calling the first one a hypocrite, it's usually the case that sheer massive irony inherent to the situation at this point causes a tear in the fabric of space-time, douchebags being sucked into a black hole of self-absorbed narcissism. Innocent bystanders are advised to quickly become apathetic to the confrontation, lest they too become sucked into the singularity.
Josiah Hansen, Judar says, a faithless bird, yes. Right?
So I figured that...
I definitely agree with all those. Yeah, they're nothing out of the norm, what I would say, for understanding. Application's a little bit different. I think, I see people throwing out the word hypocrisy that are exactly the ones that are doing the hypocrisy themselves.
So here's the question. If let's say I smoke cigarettes and I tell somebody you shouldn't smoke cigarettes, am I a hypocrite?
Yeah, I mean, you're doing something that you're telling other people not to do. It also goes into the whole tu quo que fallacy. If you're trying to argue that cigarettes are bad, and somebody says, "Hey, but you smoke," yeah, you can charge them with hypocrisy. But
are you sure if I also agree that I should not be smoking, but I do out of habit, and I'm unable to break that habit? Am I still a hypocrite?
I think
or
so.
Am
in
I just?
Ways.
Is it possible that I'm just giving good advice?
Well, yeah, but see, giving good advice, but it depends how you're doing. Are you doing prescriptively? Are you telling somebody to say, look, smoking is bad, therefore you shouldn't smoke, but you're doing it yourself? There is a little bit of hypocrisy there because you're not taking your own advice, right? I mean, you're telling people to do something, but you're doing it yourself, right? I mean, if you're on a campaign, if you're on an anti-smoking campaign, right, and you're going out and telling people not to smoke. And by the way, I never got.
Well, there's a difference between going on a campaign, right, and just saying, and somebody's like, "Oh, hey, I'm looking into smoking," and I say, "Hey, no, I'm addicted. Don't do it." Am I a hypocrite? And should you call me out for being a hypocrite, or should you maybe be a little bit more sympathetic to that, or empathetic, I should say?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I know who just. I didn't put. Sorry, just. I didn't put two and two together. He's faithless pheasant. That's. I didn't. I know that I knew that. I knew that, Oh, by the way, dogs.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, so I didn't put that together. I'm so sorry, even though I knew that, because I know exactly who he is. Yeah, totally my bad on that.
The light bulb just went off.
Yeah, we're trying to multitask here. It's not easy.
I'm surprised you didn't catch that when he said, "I am a pheasant who is faithless." You'd think that would have been the trigger. Steve had a moment. He needed it spelled out for him.
Hey, you're not doing too well today either. Multitasking.
No, I am not. Nope. Nope. Does that make me a hypocrite?
No, I think.
What's the difference? What's the difference between having a double standard and being a hypocrite, or are they synonymous?
No, I think might be a subtle difference, only in the fact that Again, a lot of things with hypocrisy do tend to go from moral virtues, right, and moral considerations, especially if I'm looking from a religious point of view. Let's look at it from a theist point of view. A theist says, hey, you know what? Porn is bad. You shouldn't watch porn. Matter of fact, I literally just had this discussion with a theist the other day, who ended up being quite dishonest.
If you're calling that a discussion, I think you might want to roll back your definition a little bit.
Look, I'm being generous here. But you know, if that person was like, you know, well, yeah, but I watch it occasionally and stuff like that, but they're telling people not to because they're basically trying to portray themselves to be a morally virtuous person, but at the same time telling others they're immoral for doing it. That is, to me, a definite trait of hypocrisy.
Sure. Here's an example of like the difference that I would say is between a double standard and somebody being hypocritical, because sometimes I see those getting their wires crossed. If somebody says you're engaging in apologetics of, you know, the variety where someone is having non-consensual sex, we're staying YouTube monetized. If somebody is engaging in those types of apologetics, then they go over here and don't apply those standards to whatever they're claiming is apologetics to the same people or that same standard. That's not necessarily hypocrisy, it's a double standard. What would be hypocrisy is if they're engaging themselves in that thing, right? It's a difference between whether they're consistently calling it out, or if they're tribalistic about it, or if they're actively engaging in it themselves, then they're a hypocrite and an apologist.
Yeah, no, I think that's okay. I mean, I don't really take umbrage with that. Yeah, I mean,
I think that's a decent example of where the two kind of where the dividing line is.
Hang on, I had to mute to cough.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, my cough is getting worse. Probably am.
Go get a swab stuff up your nose.
Look, I'm not an alarmist. I'm not an alarmist by any stretch of imagination. But I did smoke for 25 years, right? And I did quit about 4.5 years ago. It'll be 5 years this December. And by the way, like I said, I've never went out there and told people not to smoke. I never was one of those people. Oh, don't smoke around me like that. Matter of fact, I still like to smell every so often, right? But I have no craving.
I enjoy the smell of cigarettes.
Yeah, it doesn't really bother me.
Depending on the quality.
This is right in my face. But I can still to this day tell you if somebody's smoking a Marlboro, a Camel, you know, there's a difference actually. But I'm not good enough to be. I don't know the brands well enough to tell. I do know the difference between like a quality cigarette and something that's just like you bought in bulk. That's just like a cigar.
kind
If you ever smoke cigars, you can tell a good quality cigar from a cheap one, right? But,
right.
Anyways, I've been told I can't die. Somebody would be very upset if I died, and so I
think there's a few people that would be pretty upset. I think there's a few people that'd be pretty pissed,
because
actually.
they would have nothing to talk about. Yeah, my talk.
The timing, dude. The timing would be awful.
Yeah, it wouldn't be very good. So I'm
really quick to Helios. Helios is telling me to switch to smoking cocaine, and I'm gonna just go ahead and say I can't switch to smoking cocaine until non sequitur goes again, because I have to be definitely not Kyle.
No comment.
Which means I'm definitely not going to be able to smoke anything.
No comment. But I got to tell you though, quitting smoking was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. It was rough. It was nothing that I ever want to do again, because I got the smoker's flu. And for 3 days or so, I was just violently ill. Don't want to ever have to go through that again. Super chat from Reed.
For 5. So I'm really curious where you guys fall on this. Is the state carrying out the death penalty for murders hypothetical? I think you mean hypocritical. Why or why not?
Butchering words today.
No, everybody. It's everyone. It's not even just us. It's everybody. Ilya did it. Yep. Reed did it. Pheasant. Everybody. No, Pheasant didn't do it. You thought Pheasant might have meant hungry, not happy. But he did mean happy.
It's a Sina Covfefe 19. That's what it is. Yeah, I don't think it's
losing
I don't
it
think
today.
it's critical, because if the state does, okay, I don't want to get in a whole discussion about the death penalty, but if the state does it and it's sanctioned, there's no hypocrisy there, right? Because that's not murder, right? Murder is unlawful, taking one's life, and so if the death penalty is sanctioned and it's legal, that's not against law, clearly, right? Now, I do think there are some huge stipulations that should be put on the death penalty.
Well, I think they
it
more
should
mean
be-
like, is it morally hypocritical
I don't think it's
versus
morally. I don't
technically?
I don't have a moral issue with the death penalty.
I think that there's too much, particularly from, again, I'm Canadian, so we don't have the death penalty here, and it does not seem to be a problem not having it. That being said, if you're going to implement something like the death penalty, you may need to fix and rectify your judicial system first.
Oh, I agree. No, that's what I'm saying. As it stands now, the system really sucks. Yeah, there's no question about that. There needs to be a whole revamping and overhaul of the system. So if they put a moratorium on all death penalty cases and fix the system, I'm quite fine with that. And again, it should be used very, very sparingly.
Somebody says it is when you're pro-life.
Well, there's something to be said for that.
I did enjoy watching the people who were like, people were protesting my body, my choice. And the people who were saying that, oh, no, it's this, this, and this. It's not your body. It's not your choice. You're affecting other people being the fetus. Then go to talking about wearing masks, saying my life, my choice. And it's like,
well, okay, I'll give you, here's the thing about hypocrisy. Like, the same thing. Yeah. What about these people that are like these restaurants saying, you don't come in if you have if you don't have a mask, kind of thing, and then the person saying, well, you're violating my rights. But yeah, what about the rights of the shop owners? Don't they have the right to say you can't shop here unless you have a mask? I mean, that's hypocrisy.
So there was a really interesting there's a really interesting tweet that I saw that had somebody was telling a story about some woman walked into their coffee shop not wearing a mask, and the worker said, hey, can you put your mask on? And they said, why? There's nobody here. The workers are people, you assholes.
Yeah, that because they're not thinking about it, right? To them, they're
not thinking about it.
The whole point of the mask isn't really for yourself; it's for other people. You could be asymptomatic and still be a vector. You still have transmission of it, and a lot of people just don't grasp that concept. Yeah, it is both. But it's like, and we're going to probably touch on this a little bit on over and under, I think. But like Trump not understanding that it's not the testing that is making more cases; it's the testing identifying.
Oh my God, my brain!
This. I don't. For the life of me, such a simple concept is beyond.
I don't understand. Okay, I saw somebody post on Reddit. They asked a question that said, I think that there probably should be some kind of testing to be able to be president. Like, you should be able to pass, like, essentially a comprehensive
test. He passed it.
Oh, but also pass, you need to know a little bit about legislation and history.
Yeah.
To be able to, like, if you don't know how the legislative process works, how could you possibly be qualified for president, is essentially what they were saying. And they ended up walking it back a little bit because it was a discussion. They were saying, hey, this is my opinion. What do you guys think? I'm not saying that this has to be the case. So they got a lot of answers, and I guess they added an edit to say that, well, okay, so I'm going to pull this back a little bit, and because one of the main ones that caught my eye, they gave a couple of reasons, but the one that caught my eye was that who would decide what the test would be and whether or not it was fair. And I was like, what? Just what? What you would decide that by a non-partisan, like, you wouldn't use Democrats to decide or Republicans to decide. You would use people who have studied politics, like a panel of university professors in
people that know what they're talking about,
political sci and poli-sci, and but then I was like, but wait a second, there's another issue to this. shouldn't most of your citizens who have graduated high school have a basic understanding of the way your
civics.
policies work?
Yeah, I don't think they teach civics any longer. I think that was kind of removed from the course curriculum, if I understand.
My brain did a little bit of an implode. Osmond for 5. Meow,
Osmond,
meow,
buddy.
meow, meow. Hold on. Meow, 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 meow. Angry cat face. I didn't know what to say. Brain no worky. Much support and love. None of our brains are working today.
Yeah. But Christy makes a brilliant observation because she's, brilliant at this. By the way, when is we going to get her on?
I don't know. When's she coming back? Come back!
Yeah.
Come back to us.
Come back.
We love you.
Osmond became a member of the Curious Follower. Thank you, Osmond. Thank you. It's so funny, before I read Christy's statement, Osmond Cometh and I, we had our disagreements, but we used the cooperation principle, and we're going to be talking about the Grice's Maxims and everything. I don't think it was like consciously, although I do try to use them consciously sometimes, to come to a resolvement, and it's been amazing. I mean, the guy's a really cool guy, and it's like it shows that people can't have disagreements and not get blocked and not get. By the way, I did block him at one time, but we resolved it. But I mean, it all depends on the situation.
You mean blocks aren't permanently forever?
Right. Oh.
Weird.
Oh, I mean.
Sometimes you just need a break from somebody. Weird.
Right? So
sometimes people are just imposing too much on your timeline, and you're like, I need you to go away for a little while. Weird.
I've unblocked a lot of people. I'm like, you know what, this person wasn't that
bad.
I've even reevaluated and said, look, maybe I, like you said, I didn't really want to deal with them that day, so I blocked them.
Sometimes you're just not in the mood. Yeah. Sometimes you're just not in the mood. Yeah. Helios 5 says, as someone from a family that owns a restaurant, I can attest that a sadly large percentage of the population don't seem to get that the employees are people.
They don't. No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. I mean, even like in the industry of like the casinos, the whole thing about the smoking indoors was for the fact that there's people working there, right? Same thing with the whole like bars. The bars actually.
Osmond says, to be fair, I was a dick. Aww.
He was a bit of a dick, yeah. But I mean, again, I look past those things. I mean, I realize he's not a bad guy. I mean, actually, I think he's pretty cool. But I was like, you're kind of being a dick. I don't want to deal with this. That was it. It wasn't like it wasn't anything personal. But again, that's how adults have conversations, people. But Christy points out, she says, Chesh, when I saw all those anti-mask protesters with signs that said "My body, my choice," I literally had to change my shirt because I spilled coffee out and choked on it and almost died. It's right. So they're saying my body, my choice, but you can't wear a mask. I mean, and by the way, I have more than one mask. I've got these masks.
Your body, your choice. Okay, choose to take your body and leave it at home if you choose to not wear a mask. Problem solved. You're welcome. Yay!
It's like pick a lane, people. Pick a lane. You can't have it both ways. You can't say my body, my choice, and then condemn somebody for wearing a mask. It doesn't work that way. That is hypocrisy.
Ilya for 5 says, I am never in the mood to people, but here I am. Aw. And Boyvink says, at me, when will you revive your YouTube channel? Oh, I just had a thing on Tuesday, and this week I will be back with a little bit more content.
Yeah. And her link is in the video description.
I've got a couple to reads that I think are really interesting. Yeah, my links are in the description this time.
Yeah, so, well, because you have it on.
It's Monday. Everybody's brain farting.
I gotta put like Chris's in here, for over and under, and then what I think I might just do is have one thing for everything at this point, but I haven't situated it yet because
you could you could put it in a spreadsheet, because if you put it in a spreadsheet, you only have to highlight the cell and it'll copy all the text in the cell.
Yeah, so I tried putting in like Word, but what happens is it truncates it. It doesn't put the URL, so it's clickable. So so maybe in Excel it might. I don't know. Like I said, what I'm probably just going to do is I'm just going to have one thing from now on and just have yours in there and Chris's there. I'll put Bull's in there and then just put that for every one of my videos because I don't care. I mean, there's no reason for me to, just have like Chris's and me on over and under. You're still, part of the channel, so I'm happy to put your stuff on those videos as well.
Hi, Sandring.
Hi, Sandring. How's it been, man? What you missed? You missed everything, man. Go back and watch it 2-speed.
Sandring asked me to do some art for him like ages ago, and I have been fighting with it ever since. I shit you not, I have attempted 5 or 6 times, even just recently, to try and fucking paint the things that he sent me, and I have been incapable of doing it. Why? I don't know.
Did you see that person?
It's frustrating.
Their Twitter got flagged because they had a picture of someone with a mask with a ball gag in it, and I guess for some reason you can't have that. I thought that was weird. I thought it was funny.
Why is that allowed on Twitter, but there's pictures that are supposedly me, who's supposedly 17, floating around doing naked things?
Naked photos of you, those kind of things? Yeah. I don't know. That would be. I consider those are things to be hypocrisy as well. You know. But again, do as I say, not as I do.
I did, Asandring. I loved it. It is really good. I'm trying to do it justice, and I'm failing miserably, and I've been failing for almost a year. Feels bad, man.
Fact, you know, it's so funny. If you go to Wikipedia on hypocrisy, and this isn't what you think it means, but this was quite old. But they say American political journalist Michael Gerson says that political hypocrisy is, quote, the conscious use of a mask to fool the public to gain political benefit. But it's not. They're not referring to an actual mask. But
they're not repeating like.
Right. But it's so funny. People might take it that way, right? A conspiratorial person be like, "Hey, you know what? They want you to wear a mask here to fool the public and get any political benefit," because that's actually one of the narratives that are out there, right?
Oh, I could totally see that being on somebody's Twitter with that little bit highlighted. So you mean they've completely misrepresented and misunderstood the context? Weird.
Which again, ubiquitous. And by the way, I've been putting out the 5C video that we did, the big C words. That's been getting a lot of references lately. A lot of people actually I've seen have seen that and said, yeah, you know what, we need to start buying this. And again, it's not prescriptive. It's just things that we think would lend to having a better dialogue. And I do try to use these things. Yes. I honestly do. And so
that goes along a little bit with the Maxims, right?
Yeah, it does. But again, like the other day, I'll give you an example. I'm maybe the super chat from Godless Scummer. Hey, Godless buddy, 2 pounds. Twitter should ban Goblin porn.
Prawn.
No. Prawn.
No.
Yeah, that's because you can't. Yeah, because it won't let you say that word. I don't think in the.
Careful if you say no while yelling like that. People are going to say that you sound like that guy you were talking to yesterday. As soon as my name got brought up.
Yeah, they don't. I love when people are this whole like booming out crap, and it's like so funny. It's like, wait a minute. So I am defending my friends, and I'm standing up for my friends against people that are vile, reprehensible, moral. Degenerate kind of people, and I'm the bad guy.
Degenerates.
I'm okay with that. No, look, if somebody wants to call that booming out, knock yourself out, man. I will stand up for my friends.
Wait, what? That's what it was called? Booming out?
Booming out, I think the term they use. Yeah.
I've never heard that term. That's funny. Yeah. I
mean, like I said, I've gone so long with, and I don't care what people say about me. I just don't, because why?
Well, let's go back to hypocritical for a second. So if you go and you're calling somebody out and you're trying to have a discussion and you're saying like, hey, no, you're completely straight up wrong about this, and let's say you're going after somebody. Let's say you're going after somebody for like 3 or 4 years over things that have already been debunked. That would be booming out?
I think that would be a whole new term. I don't think that's even one that's created yet. I mean, besides obsessed. Yeah,
I like to call it Steve McTriggered.
Yeah, that works for me. But like I said, I don't understand why people don't get that we have loyal friends. I'm loyal to my friends. That's it. I care about people. And I don't think a lot of people, I think a lot of the people that use these terms don't have any friends. They don't know what it's like to have an actual person in their life that is an actual friend. I just don't think they've ever had it, right?
You can usually tell like who does and does not deal well or have a very positive or supportive friend group by the way they use the term friendship. So friendship has connotation to it. There's history behind the word, and it means something when you say it. So when you say that, hey, this person is my friend, and they treat you like shit all the time, if that's your standard of friendship, you're probably going to be talking past some other people because those people aren't going to use the definition of friendship the same way that you are. So if you're like somebody who complains that this person's mean to you on a regular basis, but you still hang around and say that, well, this person's my friend, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, I think you might just be in an abusive relationship. You're not actually
That's exactly
friends.
what it is. It's an abusive situation. I mean, when somebody says, "Oh, look, I know they love me, but they beat me," that's not love. When you say, "Oh yeah, my friends treat me all like shit, and all they do is like demean me," that's not friendship. Sorry, it's just not. Super chat.
You're just in a toxic and abusive situation, and hopefully that you can recognize that, but there's nothing anybody can do for you. You have to do that on your own. Nobody can help you with that. The best you can do is get away from that group of people and get new friends. It's not hard to find new friends. The internet is a big place. Helios for 2 says...
Make new friends.
Helios for 2 says there is a term for that. It's called being pathetic.
Yeah, and again, I mean, there's different levels of friendship too. I mean, everybody that kind of associates with you in some term, in some ways, friendly, right? Or there's some kind of internet friendship there. I get that. There's people in my real life that are in real life friends that I've actually met, that or corresponded with on phone. If I walk into the bus stop and I'm calling you out of the blue just to have a conversation, that's what I do to a friend, right? You're not going to do that to just some random Joe Schmuckatelli. Or even somebody you just know off the internet. That's somebody you want to have a conversation with because you want to talk about some personal stuff, or whatever it is, right? And so, those people I consider to be, actual friends. I mean, those and many of them I probably will never meet, but I sure the hell would. I mean, I've called up Christy and asked her advice on my hair before, right? Because that's her expertise, and she's a friend, and I think the world of her, right? I would like.
Christy said, "Help my bangs. I don't know what to do about them."
Oh, yeah, same thing. I mean, she's the person to talk to about this stuff, right?
Robert says, we do. It's true.
Humanism for the win, she says. And by the way, I'm not really into humanism that much, but the way she does humanism, I can get behind it. So,
Robert says friends accept criticism and give it where needed. I would add a caveat. I agree, but I would add a caveat onto that. Friends know how to approach friends with criticism. Friends give friends the benefit of the doubt. Friends ask questions. They don't accuse. There's a really big difference between asking somebody for clarification and asking a question and accusing somebody. If I say, hey, what do you mean by this? Instead of saying, you misrepresented what I said, or you're taking what I said out of context.
Yeah, well, and by the way, yes, like a Sandra comes to this area all the time. I want him to stop by next time he's in town. We're gonna go have beers together, just like I have.
When you're allowed to leave the house.
Yeah, sorry, Sandra. when I'm allowed to leave the house. But
I mean, if you're providing the beer, you could have them social distanced apart, sitting on your lawn.
Oh, that's true.
Stay out of melee range.
Yeah. But I mean, my friends, they can come over anytime. Knock yourself out. I mean, it's fine. I mean, I've had what does he go by? I know his real Colorado biker prepper, right? I mean, he's been over here.
Yeah.
Brittany Simon has been over here. People, I'm fine with having real friends coming on over. But all right, so where are we at on the whole hypocrisy thing? I mean, does the live chat, do they see a lot of this? I mean, again, we like to ask the live chat, how this applies to them. Do they see what we see when we're talking about hypocrisy?
I would love to see two things from live chat and viewers after the fact. Please leave a comment with an example that you've dealt with. And two, if you're on Twitter, start retweeting at us things that are hypocritical or pointing out something that is hypocritical. Or if you see somebody who's saying something's hypocritical and it's not, point it out and show it and tell us why. And let's just see let's get this rolling and see how many we can find.
We might do a follow-up video on that then.
Yeah, see if we can. Yeah, absolutely, and see if we can get the ball rolling and maybe get that. See where we can go. I mean, the 5Cs have gotten pretty far, so it would be interesting to see if We also have a game on Twitter for anybody who wants to join in, and it's called Count the Fallacies. So, if you're retweeting
like
somebody who's doing a bunch of fallacies at us so we can all laugh along,
all right.
It's a good one.
Okay, real quick. Macabre asked me, would you ever steal a policeman's hat, then poop in the hat, and then thrust your fist in the air and shout BLM? No. I don't think that would really be anything that I would ever do. I do understand the BLM. I get it. I'm full on, hey, you know what? They have every right to make a stink about the way they've been treated by the cops. And I think it's really nasty that certain people don't get that. And they're like, oh, all lives matter.
I would actually throw an addition in there.
That's not what
the police.
They seem to be diminishing what the point is for the fact that blacks are disproportionately killed and attacked by police officers than whites. I mean, that's the whole point of the movement.
I would probably do. I would, in addition, add in the whole jailing system and the entire judicial system, like judges, as well as the way things are handled in court when it comes to criminal offenses aren't treated equally, particularly when it comes to sentencing.
Yeah. Oh, the disproportionate amount of time in sentencing is ridiculous. In fact, again, I am generally not a retributive type person. I don't think retributive justice really does that much good to the recidivism rate. I am more of a restorative type justice person. However, that's not always the case, right? There are sometimes retribution just for the sake of retribution. I get, and I'm not totally against it, But overall, when you have people that are like incarcerated for a decade because of a marijuana offense or something like that, that's just absolutely mind-bogglingly ridiculous because the laws are literally written for that, and I don't get that.
I think the jail system should stop being a punishment system and be retrofitted and rebuilt into a rehabilitation system.
Sure, but that takes money, and by the way, one of the difficult things of doing that is the fact that a lot of these jails are now privatized, right? These are businesses.
Yeah, I don't.
For them to do that
America,
don't
man, I don't. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, who thought this was a good idea?
That's not to say we don't have problems in Canada. We have problems in Canada. There are things that I don't agree with that go on. There is bullshit that happens with the police here. There are absolutely bullshit things that happen with the police here. What?
Did you ever watch Orange is the New Black?
No.
That show really, I mean, it was brilliant, but it really did show some issues with having private.
I don't understand when somebody who assaults somebody or somebody who like hits a kid or goes to jail for abusing children or something like that in some manner, and they go to jail and everybody's like, you're gonna get raped, good, and it's like, why is rape a thing happening in your jails?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not somebody who thinks those kind of things are a good thing. I just don't. I don't think that's the type of punishment anybody should go through. But I understand the need to have want to have some kind of retaliation, but I don't think that's the way to go about it, right? I just don't.
Well, there's a difference between. So yeah, it comes into a question of what is justice and what is vengeful justice.
Right, and I'm not much into vengeance, but here's the thing. Let's say that person did go to jail and they were raped because the jail for some reason is laxical in their security, right?
For some reason,
For some reason, what happens to that innocent person that goes to jail and now they get raped? Is that somehow fair? Is that right?
And in what way, if these places are privatized, in what way is corporate held accountable for what happens within their jail?
Yeah. But again, I think there's arguments to be had about the length.
Listen, if you're gonna say that rape is an okay punishment for people who are being jailed for specific reasons, then legislate it. You already have murder you already have the death penalty. Sorry, not murder. You already have the death penalty. If that can be legislated, why? If it's actually okay, and that's actually something the American people are okay with, and that people want as part of the system, make it part of the system. Make it legal. Have a process. Have it like, okay, well, this person had sex with a minor, so they're going to get raped.
Well, again,
if it's okay. I don't think it's okay. I don't think that's something you should do.
Yeah,
but if that is the argument, and if you're okay with that, then legislate it.
I'm not. Yeah, well, yeah, that's. I don't think legislation.
At me, bro. That's essentially what I'm saying.
There's something in the Constitution that prevents certain types of punishment, right? I mean, cruel and unusual punishment you can't do. But people do want to see people get their quote just desserts, and at least decent. For example, I'll give you an example. I had a friend years ago, and her child. In fact, I knew both of them involved in here. But she had one of the girls babysit, and for some reason she got upset and she started shaking the baby. Shaking baby syndrome, ended up having permanent damage to the child. And this child is one of the sweetest. I mean, I saw them a few years ago, and she's grown up now, but she still, you can tell, is severely impacted by that event. Well, this person went to jail and still is in jail to this day, right? And that's something that I think that maybe the death penalty. I don't think you can justify that, but spending your rest of life in jail because what you did to a child, because you affected that child's life for her entire rest of her existence, and not only to that, and the mother, what she had to go through. I mean, yeah, you kind of want to say, hey, look, what is justice here? What would be the amount of time? Now, it's been about a decade or so since this person went to jail, and it was big news in my town. But it's those kind of things that is when you have the emotional attachments to it, and you're thinking, what is the justification? What is the justice to be had here? Should this person get 10 years, 20 years, her life in jail?
Well, there's also something to be said for when you're mentally unstable and you need help, right? So there are situations where, particularly in some countries, are better than others, obviously, but there isn't a whole lot of help for women post pregnancy,
like postpartum depression,
just post-pregnancy period. Like there isn't a lot of education around it in America. There isn't a lot of people that will be able to recognize the signs, including the mom who might have a harder time recognizing those signs because you're in it, or the significant other, or the people that are around them, or proper support systems. How many follow-up exams are there? How many social or how many psychological exams are done to a pregnant mother before, during, and after?
I don't think
none. Yeah. Exactly. There's not a whole lot of support for that.
Well, yeah, I think I'm telling you right now, I think our mental health system is beyond damaged. I mean, what their little of it is. We don't put a lot of effort in mental health in America, and it's a shame because that, I think, would help solve a lot of problems, especially with, like, even the homeless. Most of the homeless are on the street because they have mental issues, and you could try to get them off the street, but again, their mind, that's where they think they belong in some cases. Mental health is a massive thing that the United States just does not properly address. And it's been that way for a long time. A couple super chats here. Want me to do?
Go for it.
Boy Inc., 5 pounds. Orange is the new black sounds like recent U.S. president history. Yeah, true. Golden Unicorn, $5, New Zealand. In some states in America, minors can marry with parental permission. What the hell if that is not child marriage? America has the same problems as third world country. Well, yes and no. I mean, parental permission doesn't mean that you're trying to marry the child off as an arranged marriage.
It could be.
It could be, though. Absolutely.
It could be. Yeah. It is a loophole for something like that.
Absolutely. But that's a cultural thing as well. I mean, some states 16 is legal to get married. Some states it's 18, right? Some states you can get emancipated. There are discussions to be had at what point are you considered an adult, and I think the biggest problem with that discussion is that different people are different, and different expectations from different countries and different locations and different areas and different societies will set that standard differently. So if you treat a 16-year-old like an adult in a
society that doesn't view 16-year-olds as adults, if you were to change that paradigm, you will see there will be a change in the 16-year-olds coming up, but not a change in the 16-year-olds at that time.
Okay,
so
I can understand that, but here's the same thing. I don't think it's. Here's my position on it.
Can we just abolish marriage? Can we just abolish marriage?
Well, I mean, no. Here's the thing: there's reasons for marriage as legal contract because it's a social thing. Because you don't want to have any legal problems when it comes to like deaths or who has the right to terminate.
Yeah, but you could do that without the necessity of like the social contracts that go into marriage. Yeah,
I don't think that. I think we have set an arbitrary limit, which is 18, and I'm okay with that. I think that's acceptable, but that's because there are some legal issues to be had, and I don't think that a 16-year-old, and there might be, of course, there are absolutely some exceptions that are mentally capable of having contract stuff. As a matter of fact, in certain cases, you don't have to be 18 to sign a contract when it comes to like a rental agreement. In some cases, I mean, it's rare, but it's not always the case. You have to be 18 to sign a contract, but. The thing is though, I think as a society, we've said this is where we think the line of demarcation should be. Same thing for drinking, right? 21. These are arbitrary lines. I get this, but they seem to be arbitrary in a way that makes sense, right? I mean, you have to find a line somewhere, right? Do you want to say, hey, the drinking age is 50? Because I can drink, but Cheshire right now would be breaking the law. And she would be going to jail for it. Is that something that she should go to jail for because she's drinking? So
there's actually rules in Canada that mitigate a little bit of that drinking age, and I'll explain in a second. Boy of Ink said orange is the new black. Sounds like recent U.S. presidency history.
I read that one.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that one. So in Canada, you are allowed to drink with parental consent in your own home at younger ages.
Yeah, same here.
Provided, again, parent has to be there. You have to have permission of an adult. Then you have to be in their home. You can't so you can be in the yard, but you can't be at a bar with an adult, right? So that you don't have to wait until you're 19. You could be drinking at 16 and it's completely legal. It's just that you are in an environment supposedly that is safe, provided because the law assumes that the parent is responsible or the adult is responsible.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and one of the reasons for that is because, again, culturally, there's a lot of cultures, especially in the Italian and Jewish communities, drink wine with dinner. And kids are allowed. I
think there's there's a huge issue, I think, with just setting the expectation. A decent example is this is going to be hypothetical. In Japan, high school is treated more like college in like Canada and America, because they set that expectation for, well, you're 14 or you're 16 or you're 18 now, you need to be able to succeed in these things. And there are a lot of people around my age and younger that are very, very bad at making their own doctor's appointments because they aren't treated like adults even when they're in their 20s. There's a huge, huge problem socially. Even though you are legally an adult, you will not be treated like an adult. If I go and work at a business, I will not be treated like an adult because I look young. I'm not that young anymore. But if I look like I'm 17, I legitimately will go to a workplace and get treated like this is my first job. And it's like, guys.
Yeah, you wouldn't be taking as seriously as somebody who has a little bit more, looks like they have more experience because they're older, right?
Or even if I'm older than them.
There's something to be said about the 18 and 21 distinction. Yes, like for example, you can own a firearm like a rifle at 18, but a handgun 21. I think those thumbs need to be changed. Again, the drinking age for some states 18 is legal for beer, for 3.2 beer, and then for hard alcohol it's 21. Again, maybe it's like a gradient that they're trying to do, right? Again, there's a discussion to be had, but if they said, look, at 18 you're able to join the military. By the way, I joined at 17, but I there's a certain situation you could join at 17, but 18 is really the thing. I had parental permission, but 18 is you don't need any parental permission to go join the military. If you can fight and die for your country, you should be able to own a firearm, right? Which is guaranteed by the Second Amendment, and be able to consume alcohol. I think that's a good argument. I really do.
Now, there's also the argument for changing the age of voting down. You when you're 16 or 14, theoretically, depending on where you are, you can start working, but you can't vote. But you still get taxed. Right. So maybe instead of changing the age of voting, or maybe lowering the age of voting a little bit, but also raising the age where you can get you're a tax write-off. You don't pay, like if you were able to work from the ages of 14 to 16, and then they lowered the age of voting to 16, and you had 2 years of work that you could just get tax-free, that'd be kind of cool. That'd be kind of neat.
Okay with that. Yeah, no. If you, I think
it would encourage employers to hire for low-level employees young people to get them into the workforce easier and better. But it would also probably have to make some major changes when it comes to hiring in general. But that already needs to happen anyway.
They would probably just want to hire, inexperienced kids, because then they wouldn't have to pay suka tax, federal employment
Well, they
tax.
might still have the business might still have to pay taxes, but the income tax wouldn't come on to the that wouldn't transfer over to the person getting paid.
I don't know the legality of that. I would have to.
It would have to. Yeah, absolutely. Helios for 5 says, in the U.S., 48 states waive age of consent for married couples. In 10 of those states, there is no minimum age for child marriage, and in 7 more, the minimum age is below 16.
Yeah, it's having no limit. It makes no sense to me. I mean, I don't get, right? There has to be, even arbitrarily, some limit that society's come up with. And again, things have changed. Like back in the days, like in the Old West, there was 14 people getting married, but you only lived to your 30, right? Now, that's not a justification, but again, morality is one of those things that do change over time when it comes to cultures. I get that.
And there was a difference in expectation. If you're expected to be an adult by the age of 12, and no, you're an adult, you're going out hunting, you're part of the workforce, you're blah, 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 blah. If you were treated like you were 18 when you were 12, and that's the societal standard, and especially when you lower the life expectancy, like the age expectancy, and school isn't taking up like such a large portion of your time from the ages of 12 to 18 to 19, depending, then yeah, that changes the entire dynamic.
Boy Vink says, for £5, YouTuber Matasumas went to military in Britain when he was 16, if I'm not wrong, and he never felt sorry for his decision. I don't think you can get a waiver at 16 here. I don't know what it is in Britain, though. But, yeah, I mean, again, I don't really have too much of a problem with that. I mean, I wouldn't put a 16-year-old on the front lines. I'm sorry. But, to go into the military at 16 for support, I don't really have too much of a problem with that. But, again,
I think that it's entirely dependent on what the social expectation is. If the social expectation is that you're an adult at age 12 and you're actually treated like an adult and you're expected to make decisions as an adult, then you should be allowed to do all the adult things. It doesn't make any sense to do so otherwise. If you're going to say, hey, you're an adult at 12, you have to pay taxes, you have to pay bills, you have to go out and get a job at the age of 12, but you don't get any of the benefits of being an adult, that's bullshit. Yeah, not that I agree that we should use 12 as the standard. I'm just using an extreme number.
Sure. All right, so we got to we went down to this rabbit hole, but we're going to get back on some of the topics.
It was a good rabbit hole.
It's a good rabbit hole. No, absolutely. And by the way, Moon is right. Moon is right. This is a really good episode, and Cheshire actually predicted that.
Thanks.
She actually said it's going to be a good episode.
I can see the future.
So actually, and I even told S.J. Thomason to watch this, because I said, it's going to be talking about cooperative principle. But at first he's like, "Why, you're going to be talking about Romans 1?" I'm like, "No, I'll be talking about going into a conversation with certain assumptions or assertions that do not allow for proper communication, right? That inhibits the communication, right? That doesn't have the principle of rational discourse." So real quick, the cooperative principle is something that Paul Grice came up with as a descriptive way to talk about how people have a discussion, right?
Okay, I'm going to let you read that out and explain that while I go refill my drink and cool off for a second, because I am actually starting to feel really, really warm. I'll be 1 second.
Yeah, it's really hot in here too, but I can't have the AC on because it's very noisy. Okay, so the cooperative principle, or also known as a cooperative principle, or the principle of rational discourse, is what I refer to it as, tells people how to basically have a conversation where you get the optimal results, right? You go into the conversation with certain assumptions, which is fine. One of which, that the person you're having a conversation with is somebody who's a reasonable, rational agent. Okay, this is one of the things. Like the other day, I was talking to somebody, and we were having a conversation. But once they started lying, once they started being dishonest, right? I told even one of my friends, WizBiz, I said, hey, I'm no longer giving this guy the principle of charity, right? I'm no longer functioning under this cooperative principle because I don't have the belief that this person is a rational, honest agent, right? Now, again, that's just me. I'm not telling other people that that's how they should go about doing stuff. Some people will say, like, Grice would probably have argued that this is a cooperative principle that should be always the case, even though he didn't do it prescriptively. This was a description in his pragmatic theory, but he would probably argue that still you should always have these maxims. Again, I don't discount the maxims, but when you're dealing with a dishonest agent, for me, I'm done. I don't have the time. I don't have the patience. I don't have the wherewithal to be sea-lined or have talking to somebody who's somebody has explained things to a million freaking times that they don't really care for the answers. They don't care to have a discussion. They don't care to be honest, and they're outright lying about stuff. For me personally, the cooperative principle goes out the window. Okay, but again, to each his own on that. Somebody says I'm using the principle of charity wrong. I don't think so, but the principle of charity is basically you want to steel man somebody's position, right? You want to always go into a conversation with the best possible light that a person has for their argument, right? That's how I use the principle of charity. If you know any other way, let me know. But the principle of charity is looking at something at the best possible light when you have a discussion, which I think again, it's not specifically mentioned in the cooperative principle. But to me, when I'm talking about what I call the principle of rational discourse, which Grice referred to it as well, all these things seem to come into play. They're all tangentially related, right, in a pragmatic way. So I do think that we should apply the principle of charity. But again, the principle of charity goes out the window when somebody is dishonest, right? When I don't think that their arguments are legit arguments in the fact that they are being dishonest in their argumentation, right? I'm no longer going to steel man them. I'm no longer going to put their argument in the best frame, right? Yeah, and Wiz is watching now. So he witnessed this, right? But see, I let somebody know this, right? Because when I change from a person to say, okay, let's have an honest dialogue, and you're no longer being honest to me, I want people to recognize this is where I no longer are functioning under the maxims and the principles that even I hold to, because I'm not going to do that with a dishonest agent. And again, this is just me, absolutely just me. Atheist linguist says I'm a doctor. Atheist linguist says, I'm a doctoral candidate. Hey, awesome. Doctoral in linguistics, by the way. That's awesome because I love
super
Dr.
cool.
Jones. He's a I'm telling you, I don't know what it is about linguistics. I don't know much about it. I've read a little bit about linguistics and Grice and other things, but it seems one of those subjects that it seems really specific on like Wittgenstein and Eyre. But anyways, he says, I'm a doctoral candidate linguistics at the University of Florida and took a course in pragmatics a few years ago. It is not often that this community wanders into my wheelhouse. Oh, hey, awesome.
Well, we did it.
Okay, what? Here we go. Please keep me honest on this. If I say a thing that you think is wrong, atheist linguist, I'm going to defer to your expertise. Again, this cooperative principle in the fact that I am going to assume that this person is an honest agent that has told me something that is true, right? Because this is what I argue. Somebody the other day, again on Twitter, was saying, Steve, what shouldn't you doubt stuff always to be a skeptic, a true skeptic? And I said no. I said only atheist community people think that weird way. You don't go around doubting things. You don't strive for
bunch
doubt.
of weirdos.
And because they said, well, why do you believe S.J. Thomason when she says that she has had experiential experiences? And I say, well, no. What I said was I believe she has had experiences in her sense data, right? I've had experiences in my sense data. Most people have had sense data that they've had these experiences. What they are, that's open to interpretation, right? I don't think she has talked to God. No, right? But to start off, in a conversation with the position that, oh, well, I don't think SJ even had an experience, that doesn't do anybody any good, because I know I've had experiences, so why would I not give her the benefit of the doubt that she has, and she's maybe misinterpreting it? That is a better way to have a conversation. But this person says, well, shouldn't you doubt her until you had evidence otherwise? And this is my response to them, and they really had to think about this. At first, they said it was kind of BS, but then they thought about it. I said, look, and I just used my daughter's example. I said, my daughter's 15 years of age. Do you doubt me on that? Do you think I have to show you evidence that my daughter's 15 years of age? Or you just take it arguendo?
To me, it would be inconsequential.
But it's not beliefs, right? It doesn't matter what the proposition is, right? It doesn't matter what the proposition is. If I proffer something and I say, look, my daughter's this, and somebody says, well, I doubt you, and I'm like, I don't care then. You're just
well, I think that might actually I think that the proposition might actually matter. If you say I walked on water yesterday, I might be like, what?
Okay. Let me rephrase that because I know where you're going with that. Okay, the proposition shouldn't matter about how we go about. For example, if I trust you, right, and you give me something that I think is way beyond the
like
pale,
absurd.
Right? It's not a matter of me just ordinary doubt. Right? At that point, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to just give you, the benefit of the doubt that you walked on water. But if you say, hey, look, Steve, I bought a kitten today, right? There are certain ordinary things that doesn't take a lot of investment to go, okay, I trust this person enough. And they say, what's your justification for it? They ask me. I'm like, because I trust certain people that what they're telling me is true, because you can't go around doubting everything, right? Who functions like that? Nobody lives their life saying every time somebody says something, oh, I need evidence for that. No, we automatically take certain assumptions that certain people that we trust have earned enough where we're going to believe them without evidence if it's just something of normal, ordinary conversations.
Well, yeah, but on top of that, people seem to think that it would be a bad thing to assume that, like, to take them on face value. Here's the thing.
Right.
If we take them on face value, like, so let's take atheist linguist as the great example. If we give them the benefit of the doubt and charity and be like, you know what, we're going to believe you on face value that what you've said about yourself and your education is true. And so we're going to defer to you. So if we get something wrong, let us know. It's not really going to take very long for us to be like, I don't believe you now because you start. So if somebody, let's say, pick something out of the air. Let's say somebody says they're a lawyer. And you go, okay. And then they start saying shit that's really, really wrong about the law and about particular cases. You may start to doubt their claim that they're a lawyer, even if you did give them the benefit of the doubt to begin with.
Well, we see that with a lot of people that claim expertise that we just don't think they have, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that, they'll come in and say, look, I'm know about this, and this, and you ask them some basic question, like, oh, and so you're like, wait a minute here, I'm kind of again, I try to start people out at like,
right. So there's what I'm saying is that there seems to be the idea that if you don't doubt them, it's harmful to you. It's not, because it's not going to take too actually suss out whether or not they're telling the truth, and it's possible that you actually just made a really good new friend. I would also like to say to atheist linguist, come around more. Hell, come onto the show sometime. We talk about lots of topics. Absolutely. So
yeah,
we'd love to have you on at some point.
I would love to have a discussion about Wittgenstein's private language argument. I would love to have a discussion on de versus de dicto and transparency versus
I would love to have a discussion about their education. I would like to have a discussion about their education path and like how to get there, what the benefits are, like where do you go with that doctoral, like what do you do with it, as well as like what were things in your course that were maybe not relevant. Like what do you think, what do you find that throughout your academic history, do you find that are things you use, things you don't use, things that were really good and things that were kind of like, why does this exist?
So let me ask him this real quick. While I'm got here, then we'll continue on with the Grice's Maxims. This is my view, and this is my view. My view is that words don't have intrinsic meaning. My view is that words have usages. They have diachronic usages that are over time, and then they have synchronic usages that we use them for nowadays, right? And I don't think that certain words have any fixed meaning to them other than what we give them, right? And so I have been labeled a prescriptivist for that, which I reject wholeheartedly because that is the antithesis of a prescriptivist. I have a descriptivist position. I think words are described in dictionaries. Dictionaries do not prescribe usages. They show how the synchronic usage of a word at the time is being used. That's it. That's all it's doing. It doesn't say. This is when it's funny. I mentioned this on non sequitur ages ago. I said, look, dictionaries don't.
Are you talking about the philosophy of words right now?
Yeah. Well, he's a linguist, right? And again,
his personal philosophy.
Diachronic usage is really important because there's etymological things to be had. People use etymological fallacies all the time. Well, it was used this way years ago. Well, so what? So let me ask you.
I just wanted to tease you.
But does that sound like I'm a descriptivist or descriptivist? Because again, when I say that dictionaries don't define words, there are actually people that mock that. which showed me they didn't understand anything about modern dictionaries. Now, there used to be prescriptive dictionaries, but dictionaries nowadays are just describing synchronic.
I find that I'm a little bit of both, actually. Like, personally, I find I'm a little bit of both, depending on the word. I find that there are some words.
Specific way.
Right, exactly. So if you're going to take, it's usually in a situation where a word already exists for what you're trying to say. Why are you commandeering this word to already mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah, but that's
right. So it's not saying that these words have to mean these things. It's that these words already have meanings. Why are you not using them in a way that people understand? Now, I think a little bit of that has to do with like vernacular and how and media, like how poor like news and television actually uses language. Like, it's poor. It's real bad. And I'm like, I'm not perfect. I screw up all of the time in linguistics and how I say, and maybe I'm not exactly saying what I mean. But, oh, sorry. Apparently I fell away when I said commandeering. Why would you commandeer a word that already has a meaning to say something that already has a word for it? So if I describe to you a cat and I use the word dog, well, dog already has a meaning and there's already a word for cat. So why am I not using the word cat? So a better, like less, a more specific example might be the word to, if I'm trying to convince someone, or if I'm being convincing, or if I'm trying to persuade someone. Am I actually trying to change your mind, or am I presenting you an argument that might be convincing?
Limo says, isn't there something in Pyrrhonian skepticism that is basically a good precursor to the scientific method? I don't think so, because Pyrrhonian skepticism is the position that you don't even know if knowledge is even possible, right? But in science, we do have the assumption that knowledge is possible, I think. When I say I know that gravity is a force in Newtonian physics that has when you have two things of matter that they're going to attract each other, that's a knowledge claim, right? I mean, there are
times when you get so far where you start asking like if you can really know things that it starts being impractical to the point where there's not really much of a point outside of just philosophy and just trying to understand the concept. It doesn't mean it's not valuable to understand the concepts, and it doesn't mean it's not valuable to to discuss it or to think about it. It just means that you have to draw a line eventually. You have to be like, no, I have to assume that my door when I open it is going to lead into my house.
Yeah. And again, the reason why certain people that are skeptics, actual skeptics, not these, I just don't believe kind of skeptics, but I mean skepticism as far as philosophy, when you have the academic skeptics.
You mean this is why people call them religious in their atheism. This is why people call atheism a religion, because of the behaviors.
Yeah. Oh well, I somebody the other day I just mentioned this that they have they took a lot from theistic ways of doing things. It's kind of funny because a lot of those atheists were ex-theists, and they still have the same mindset. But
irony.
But Pyrrhonian skepticism and even academic skepticism is all about, is knowledge even acquirable? Is it obtainable? Is there even such a thing as knowledge? And there's certain things like, what's the advantage of having justified true belief over merely a true belief? Why does it matter to somebody if we have knowledge, or do we just have a true belief? I mean, it's called the swamping problem, right? Is there any value added to be had by somebody saying, I know this versus this is true and I believe it? Again, these are philosophical questions, and I'm fascinated by those types of epistemological questions.
And then you run into the linguistics problems.
Science doesn't care about those things, right? Science says, hey, if you take look, when you take a test, they're asking you about your knowledge, right? And even though it's a little bit different use of the word, I'm not trying to equivocate here, but you can actually say, look,
write down, I believe my pencil is currently working for this test.
Right. I believe the answer to this question is, but anyways, so
linguistics.
Did he leave?
No. He's doing laundry, so he's going to be in and out with when he can chat.
Okay.
Or she.
Because I don't even.
Or she. Their avatar looked male, but I'm not going to assume.
So when they get
Anyway.
back, all right. So
How
all
far
right,
did we get into
so,
the Maximums while I went to go get more beer?
we haven't got anywhere in the maxims. I just explained the cooperative principle, which again, these maxims
Oh,
come from this cooperative principle, right? These are the ways that he
Hey.
thought that. And again, I hope I don't butcher it too much. This is Ozzy's territory, by the way. But
oh.
yeah, Ozzy's really.
Why isn't Ozzy here?
He's been camping so much. We were supposed to have a thing.
Oh,
the
he's
other
out
day,
in the
but I wasn't
wild
feeling too well.
outdoors. Oh,
Exactly. Yeah,
jelly.
he has a real life, right? Yeah.
Aw.
He just loves his camping. All right, so if you
Pitching
wanna
a
put this
tent, as it
right,
were.
he makes actual igloos, man, like legit igloos.
I live in Canada. I'm inside an igloo right now.
I'm gonna read this real quick.
This is what the inside of an igloo looks like.
Well, can you put the graphic I gave you up? If you, Macabri asked, if you could plot ontological and epistemological positions on a Cartesian chart, I think science would begin at realism, the first axiom that the world is knowable and logical. To some degree, but that doesn't mean it's a realist, right? I mean, there's something called a modal-dependent realism that Stephen Hawking came up with. That's generally the consensus now, I guess, which is a type of realism rather than anti-realism. But the same thing, I do tend to scientific instrumentalism. And I've had this discussion with Dr. Malpass, who is a scientific realist. And he makes good arguments. By the way, let me tell you something about Malpass. Whatever you argue with him, you're going to lose. I mean, if Dr. Malpass wanted to argue that the Earth is flat, you're going to lose. Okay, so I mean, it's just don't.
Can we do that? Can we do that for April Fools? Could we have Reds come on with Dr. Malpass and argue that, and Reds can argue that the Earth is a globe, and Malpass can argue that the world is flat, and we'll take bets. That'd be really good for April Fools. That'd be fun. It would just be an exercise. It would be an exercise in argumentation, is what that would be.
Yes, but I think it'd be amazing, though. I don't know if he would do it, but he doesn't really do those things. But anyway,
who
so
is
long
the
story
he in
short,
that? Who is the he? Reds or Malpass?
Malpass. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But again, the only reason I tend to scientific instrumentalism, and by the way, I could be moved to realism, no problem. But to me, when you have a scientific theory, all you're looking for is does that scientific theory provide utility? Is there a pragmatic use to that theory? Whether it actually is the way reality is, I don't think we have ever a way to determining that, right? So,
I'm just going to touch on this real quick while Boole gets the graphic up. Atheist linguist said, I've actually corresponded briefly with Steve before as translator Carminium. Oh, it is cranium?
That's what it was, yeah. I think it's Carminium.
Oh, no, it is Carminium. I was right. I did it right. Yeah. I'm the smart boy today. I started a brand new channel for atheist content. So if you guys are interested in atheist content from someone who is a linguist, go check it out. Actually, if you use Twitter, tweet at me your YouTube channel, and I will go take a look and give you a little bit of promo.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have you on, man. I mean, absolutely. All right, so let's go through these maxims real quick. And again, Grice did make these as descriptive of having a conversation. I try to actually apply them. Not very well sometimes.
I would be really happy if we got to do if we did a series of mini debates for April Fools on Non Sequitur, and we have Kent Hovind come on and argue for evolution and Dapper argue for creationism.
I wish you had
just for fun. Obviously not to shit on anybody, legitimately just to have a romping good time of just picking apart other people's arguments and being silly.
I wish you had mentioned that name because I swear to you. And again, this is a cooperative principle kind of thing, right? Believe me, don't believe me, I don't care. I actually had a dream that involved Kent Hovind last night.
Oh my god!
I was back in retail, and Kent Hovind.
Were you selling him a bra?
No, seriously, he was the boss, and he had somebody with him who, and I don't know if it was Cy 10 or somebody, but somebody that was working with him. And I was thinking to myself very clearly, oh my god, I now have two of the most dishonest people as my boss, and they get to promote all their BS through the company. Right? This was a dream that I had literally last night, but I wasn't going to tell anybody about it. But you mentioned his name. But see, again, do people want evidence of that, right? I mean, do you doubt me because I don't have evidence?
We get if Cy and Scott Clifton come on, and Clifton argues for solipsism, and Cy argues for Scott.
Here's the thing: they were already supposed to have a discussion on some other channel, but Scott's kind of finding out that Cy is kind of what's called a contrarian, I guess, and obstructivist. I consider Cy an obstructivist. He's not there to have honest dialogue.
He tends to very much detract from the point being made with pedantic bullshit.
Not even that. I think he literally just doesn't. I think he literally tries to gum up conversation. I've seen him do it.
Oh, I don't.
Right,
I
so
don't deal with him as much as you do.
Yeah, so let's get into these. But I said, we still get along. All right, so let's get into these maxims. The first maxim is the maxim of quantity. This is where one tries to be informative as one possibly can and gives as much information as needed, but no more. In other words, when you're having again, these are more like a debate thing too. You want to say, this is what I want to give for the information wise. I don't want to give too much information because then one, you're actually overloading the person, but I don't want to be so misinformed that the person's not understanding what I'm talking about. So you want to give just as much quantity as you need to relay the concept without being overboard on it, without giving too much information and not giving enough information.
You notice how that, like, the first thing is like immediately obstructed by character limits when it comes to like comments or on Twitter or whatever. Immediately that first thing is obstructed.
Yeah, that's a good point. You have 280 characters on, isn't it? 240, is it 280 on Twitter? But you know what? But at the same time, though, you can also multi-tweet. But because you have to actually put in one tweet, if you just want to keep it in one tweet, we've all experienced this on Twitter, right? And by the way, our Twitters are in the description. If you're not following us on Twitter, you really should, because most of this makes more sense if you are. But
you really shouldn't. If you follow me, I guarantee it's a shit show. Guaranteed.
Yeah, hers is a lot more than I'm actually trying to do less shit shows, but
he's actually trying to do work, and I'm just there to just have a good time.
Boy, did we switch places on this, right? Now we used to be just the opposite. We just like went to, it's like right past each other. Went to, but so
it's interchangeable.
Yeah, it fluctuates. It's like biorhythms. But you got to admit, though, and we've all done this, when you're trying to put out a tweet and you want to convey the most amount of information without like going over your limit, and you really, how many times have you all edited your tweet? Going in and then say, okay, I want to send this because you want to put a certain amount of information in it, right? You want to be informative as possible and give as much information as needed, but no more than what's required, but no less either, right? Okay, so. The next one is the maximum of quality. This one I think a lot of people have issue with. And this one where one tries to be truthful, it does not give information that is false or that is not supported by the evidence. In other words, this is, to me, one of the hallmarks of a dishonest interlocutor or an agent that is a dishonest agent. Because in my dealings with people, I do try to be honest. Now, there are people out there who have attacked my credibility for years, and I get that, right? But none of them ever show that I've actually lied about anything, which is the funniest part. But they tell everybody, Steve's this, Steve's that. They go around to my friends, Steve's this, Steve that. But none has ever shown anything of any consequence because none of things exist, right? They actually have to fabricate to character assassinate, right? These are not honest interlocutors that I'm going to have a discussion with, right? And so when I'm having a discussion with somebody that I just met that I don't know very well or something like that, I'm trying to be as truthful as possible with them. When I say something,
and they're not an account that was made like today, and they're only tweeted like fucking.
Yeah, look, if you have to make a new account because you don't want to be an honest interlocutor because you have to hide who you are, you're automatically a dishonest agent.
Because what you're about to say is really embarrassing.
Yeah. So I mean, those are the accounts that I just block right off the bat. Right? They get nowhere with me. Cheshire likes to play with them, but that's her deal.
Sometimes.
And by the way,
it depends. It depends on how much effort they put in. If they don't have like a picture and they haven't really put any effort into their profile, it's kind of like, well, you didn't put any effort in, so why should I put any effort? But if you go out of your way and you take like the Caffeine Corner logo and you adapt it and change it into something like a little bit new and creative to try and be douchey, I might give you a little bit of my time because you put some work in. Good job.
Yeah, I just don't, right? And so again, who Cheshire blocks and Cheshire talks to is
Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to make this very clear that Cheshire, who she talks to, and who she blocks and who she unblocks, is 100% independent of me. 100%. I have no control over anything. I don't care who she blocks. I don't care who she talks to. That's completely up to her. Same thing goes with most people. The only reason that there's certain people that I've held accountable only because they, not just who they talk to, but who they actively promote. That I cannot have around, right? I mean, if you promote
there's a difference.
They'll come around.
Yeah, there's a difference between when you yourself might not be directly making these claims, but when you support people and allow people to use your platforms to support these claims, you're not just complacent anymore. You are being active, even if your response, if you've made a decision to not do anything about somebody lying about somebody that you know is a lie, you've made a decision which is doing something. You've chosen to be inactive. That's not neutral. People think that's neutral.
Yep.
That's not neutral.
No, it's not. No, not by any stretch of imagination. An atheist linguist makes a very good point, and he's right on this. He says that I understand it, that the quantity of Maxim is more about numbers and degrees. For example, if I were to say I have one sister while actually having two, it's not technically a lie. That's absolutely correct. It's not a lie, right?
So and can you explain to me a little bit what he means by numbers and degrees? Okay. So like a degree of how true something is?
Well, you want to be as formative as possible. In other words, you don't want to have ambiguity, right? And so if I say to you, look, I have one sister, and let's say that I do have two sisters, and I don't, but if I have two sisters, and I say, hey, I have one sister, that actually is a true statement, right? There's no falsity to be had there. However, it doesn't convey sufficient information to really convey what is informative about what's actually the situation.
So it's like omission. You're omitting information.
Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay. But it doesn't tell you whether or not you have two sisters. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't call it live omission because you then by live omission you're actually trying.
Well, I wasn't talking about lying. I was just talking about you omitted information.
No, somebody had asked us a live omission. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, I think there's something to be said by that. Matter of fact, I wrote a blog on modalities and the misuse of modality when you're saying certain things called a modal scope error. And a modal scope error uses something like this too. I mean, if it's, but if you, for example, if I have one dog and two cats, I can say, I have one dog, right? But that.
Or you can say, I have a cat.
Yeah, right, because it's a subset of that, right? If I have one dog and two cats, which is an example that I use in my modality fallacy, I can say I have one.
But if somebody had asked you, what pets do you have, and you say I have a cat.
Yeah, I don't think Grice would actually. I don't remember, and I've read some stuff by Grice. I don't think he even mentions live omission, but I could be wrong on that, right? Because I just don't think that was relevant in his.
Well, it's not what he's talking about.
Construction of this.
He's talking about assuming people are honest from the get-go.
Yeah, because look, if somebody says, do you have a sister? Yeah, I have a sister. But if somebody says you have a sister, you're just like, oh, I have two sisters, right? I'm informative of that, right? I'm giving them the most information possible without giving too much information. If somebody says you have a sister, I have two. That's how I would answer that with the quality, maximum quality. Quantity,
right?
Right. So,
how many sisters do I have?
Only one that matters to me. I'm just kidding.
6.
Yeah, you got a big old family.
I think I have 6, technically.
So when it comes to the maximum of quality, again, I do try to be truthful. If people want to attack me for that, they've had for years. But you know what? My base realizes they're wrong. Everything, like 95% of what my toxic fandom says is wrong. We've established just ad nauseum, right? And they've been lying about me. They lied about Cheshire, lied about Bull. They lied about my friends. This is what they do. So those are not the people that I have a discussion with ever. And anybody that makes a fake account like that, they're not trying to be truthful, right? So
never say never, Steve.
That's the maximum quality. Yeah, okay. There are some exceptions. You're right. Okay, fair enough. Correction. There are some exceptions.
Well, there are times. There are times where there will.
It was brilliant. So
I still think my favorite thing about that entire situation was that after it was essentially over, you were like, God, this is why I don't talk to these people. It's such a waste of time. And we were all like, yeah, but you did. And then also I went and tweeted at the guy, and his banner was a tweet of you saying, talking to this person is a waste of time. And I'm like, everybody agrees.
Everybody's on the same page here. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
look, if I'm going to talk to somebody and all they're going to do is be a spineless coward that won't take a stance and basically lie. I mean, when somebody says, "Oh, well, I may have said this, but I don't remember," although, and yet they did. They said it. It's absolutely they said it. Oh, but I may have told a whole bunch of people to go, commit mass murder.
Actually, this is making me curious about something. Hold up, I'm gonna hold on. I want to see something. Hold up.
Should I go on the next one while you're doing this? Or?
Yeah. Go for it.
All right. So the next one is maxim of relation. This is where one tries to be relevant and say things that are pertinent to the discussion. And I see this one violated quite frequently. When I'm having a discussion with somebody, I like to have a very narrow way of having the questions, right? And again, don't always use the Socratic method. I admit this. Sometimes I do, but not always. But I like to have things very simplistically. And this is not pigeonholing people as people have charged me with. It's not at all. Matter of fact, I see the best conversations when people utilize this. If you have a very simple question, it should be answered very simply, is my maxim, right? It doesn't take a 5,000 paragraph thing to answer a very simple question. Do you have a sister? Yes, there you go, right? I mean, it doesn't take a dialogue to answer that. Now you can say, yes, I have, 2 sisters, or go back to the maximum quality, and, B gives them detail on it. But if I say, do you have a sister? Well, what do you mean by sister? And you're just obfuscating. It really does nothing to add to the conversation, right? These are, I think,
well, if you're asking the question, what counts as a sister, there are cases where that might be considered. So I said, I think I have 6.
There might be third questions. Sure.
My dad's wife has 3 girls. There's Rachel, whom you've met, and then my stepdad, my current stepdad, has a daughter. However, my ex-stepfather also has ex-stepkids and his own daughter, which would count for 2. So I would have 7. But at that point, how are you counting what counts as a sister? Does it count as somebody you've grown up with? Because in some cases, yes or no, right?
Yeah. I'm not saying don't ask clarifying questions.
Yeah. I'm just giving an example of where it gets weird.
Yeah, but a lot of people just obfuscate for the sake of obfuscation. They don't sit there and answer simple questions. And so what they do is they go down these rabbit holes, and they start talking about things that are completely irrelevant. And I'm like, this is not dealing with the question at hand. We see these all the. And matter of fact, this is one of the biggest things I do see against religious people sometimes. Right, when they're in a discussion, they start talking about tangential stuff that just has no relevancy to anything. Right, in their arguments for God. I do call them out on this. Right, so I say, okay. I hate to keep using SJ, but she does this quite frequently. I'm like, hey, SJ, here's my question to you. She'll talk about something completely different, and then she'll like, oh, I don't want to talk about this any longer, right? Which is fine. She can exit. I have a rule. This has been the Great Debate Community rule for a very long time. You can leave a conversation for any time, for any reason, right? I mean, Bull, have I not had that for 4 or 5 years?
I recently just posted one of the commandments.
Did Bull leave us?
Bull.
Have I not personally have a rule that's been around the Great Debate Community for a long time that I kind of established, that was you can leave a conversation for any time, for any reason, if you're having a dialogue with somebody. You can excuse yourself and recuse yourself, and that's it. And by the way, I don't think that's chickening out, but I don't like, oh, this person ran. There's sometimes that might be applicable, but for the most part, if somebody doesn't want to carry on the dialogue, that's fine, right? Except when I want to leave the dialogue, right? Then I've been trying to leave dialogues with people for 4 years, and they still try to drag me down, right? That's just being a dishonest person. But
by the way, here's the Twitter for Caffeine Corner. That's not in the description.
I made a new Twitter thing for Caffeine Corner.
Yay!
But anyways, do you want to add on the maximum of relation about try to put stuff that is relevant to the conversation and not this tangential stuff that just gums the dialogue?
If it is relevant information, you should add it without prompting. If the information is pertinent to what your discussion is, if you're being honest, then there isn't any reason to not grant and give additional information about a situation that you're being asked about or the discussion that you're having. So
yeah, it's funny you mention that
that's
because
my
Grice
opinion.
actually says that. Grice actually puts that, it's called units of information. You need a certain amount of units of information to give to somebody, as in for like the maximum quantity, which again,
Right.
I think atheist linguist was probably referring to. But the whole thing of the units of information is, if somebody says, do you have a sister? And the units of information is, what do I need to tell them that is the most effective amount of information that I possibly can give them without giving too much? Is, oh, I have, quote, 2 sisters or something like that.
Yeah, there's also like there could be a situation where not giving the entire amount of information for how many sisters you have is pertinent. It might be like, do you have a sister? Well, yeah, because you're having a discussion about periods and you're a dude and you're like, yeah, no, I have some information. I have a sister or I have sisters. I have an understanding about what goes on in this case. Like, I have a general knowledge. So it might, you don't need to go through your family goddamn lineage.
All right, so the last one, the maxim of manner. When one tries to be clear, as brief and as orderly as one can in what says, and where one avoids obscurity and ambiguity, right? And this is kind of just what we all tend to try to do, and we all fail on this. I'm going to be the first one to admit, we all fail on this one. This one's probably the hardest. We try to be clear and brief, but unfortunately, because of the medium we use, Twitter and YouTube, there's always that chance for ambiguity, right? And by the way, I can tell you right now, I am probably, I'm just going to say it, I'm probably the person out there that has the least charity from certain people, and they will not only take things that may be slightly ambiguous and run with it, they will purposely do so. Purposely do so. But again, that's what a dishonest interlocutor does. I don't go out of my way for looking for ambiguity of stuff. I can read when there's ambiguity. I can say, hey, Chesh, you said this and there's some ambiguity here. What do you mean by it? That's called context and clarifying, right? Back to the
part of the C's.
Part of the C's, clarifying. What did you mean by this? Let's disambiguate this, right? But when you're a dishonest person, you don't go out of your way to disambiguate. You go out of your way to take that ambiguity, take that amphibly, take whatever you can and make it into drama.
Instead of taking things out of context, instead of assuming or accusing, or instead of strawmanning, you steel man. And is this what you're saying? Isn't an attack. It's clarifying. Is this what so many times I'm like, okay, so what you're saying is this. And then people get mad because as soon as you lay out what they're saying, they're like, oh, wait, that makes me sound like an asshole. Because you're an asshole. Stop being an asshole.
But you've seen this firsthand, live chat. You guys have seen this firsthand, not just with me, but you guys themselves. I mean, have you not? Yeah. How many of you, by the way, how many of you here don't have Twitter? If not, you should get it. But I mean, most of you guys follow us.
Don't encourage people for Twitter. Oh, no, what's wrong with you?
Do it. Don't listen to her. Don't listen to her. Get Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Wait, what Maxim is violate here? What Max? What's being violated?
We're playing good cop, bad cop. You can decide which one is the good cop and which one is the bad cop.
I'm the evil demon right now, I guess, on your shoulder. Get Twitter and follow us. Do you realize that you saying that has the opposite effect on people? Like, well, what are you missing out here? What are we missing out? Why are they telling us not to go on Twitter? But how many people in live chat have actually said something that you even thought to yourself probably cannot be have ambiguity, right? But you put it out and somebody finds a way to misread it.
Wool doesn't want you to go on Twitter because people are spending so much time on Twitter exposing him and Steve as bigots.
Yeah, it's like a whole movement, right? Let's expose Steve. Let's show Steve for the bad man that he is. And yet anybody who looks into it goes, this is all bullshit, right? I mean, this is like ridiculous because they are the kind of people that takes these minor ambiguities and they run with it, right?
There's too many people that are incapable of rubbing two brain cells together, though.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. I think it's more than just a lack of intelligence. I think it is a lack of ethics. This is what I've been saying for ages. These people are
I would probably say two things.
Agents.
No, like we're not talking about like the main people that are pushing it. We're talking about the people who just agree, or the people who are like, oh yeah, no, that's bullshit. Two, they're lacking in ethics or critical thinking skills, or they're emotionally driven, like to a degree that they don't understand how to take an emotional argument out. So the people who are offended that when somebody says, oh, Chesh said to murder children, then okay, well, one, you're lacking the critical thinking skills to determine whether or not that's what I actually said within context. And two, you're having an emotional, visceral reaction to somebody saying that somebody else said something that they may or may not have said.
Are you saying that they didn't give you any principle of charity or steelman your argument or even try to find out and clarify what your actual argument was? Are you saying that people do that? Stop that.
I'm saying that I didn't actually make any argument whatsoever, so anybody saying I said that doesn't actually know what my position is.
You never did make an argument on that.
Nope. I never said what my personal position was, nor did I make an argument either way. I haven't gotten anywhere by the way.
Godless Scummer says, to be fair, Atheist Pastor did a very good Steve McCrae exposed video. I agree. And by the way, I pinned his exposed video. And people, and here's the thing,
a little while.
Atheist pastors, he's not an idiot, and he's an atheist. Oh my God. People are like, Steve's against atheists. No, I'm not. Not by any stretch of imagination. I'm against the people that are non-critical thinkers and that are shit people that happen to be atheists.
Well, you're not even necessarily against those people. You're against bad ideas and bad arguments and dishonest bullshit. You're not even against any individuals.
Pastor is not like that. He's one of the most honest guys. I mean, he's just a really nice dude.
He seems like a good guy
for a politician.
I heard him say some things on your last over-under video that I was like, I had to do a double take on, but I gave him the principle of charity that, no, there's probably more to what he's trying to get across, not what actual words are specifically being spoken. But hound him on Twitter being like, what did you mean by you people?
It's so funny because, this toxic fandom is all like, oh, you're going to do an over and under with Steve. If you disagree with him, he's going to like, and he's like, we disagree. This is why we're doing this. It's like, Chesh and I don't agree on everything. Bull and I don't agree with it. Two people agree on everything. It's how you have the conversations. That's been the whole point of Caffeine Corner, and was supposed to be the point of Non Sequitur Show, but unfortunately, some dishonest person changed that. But that's the whole thing from day one, right? Is that that two people are going to have disagreements. How do you handle them? Right? Because you don't want a society of everybody thinking the same. That's groupthink. That's not going to be a healthy society without dissent.
No, and that you run into some tribal issues. How do you advance?
Yeah, but think about it. Look, nobody has perfect beliefs, right? Nobody does, right? I as a person who loves epistemology, recognize that we all have false beliefs, right? We all have beliefs that need revision and correction. Everybody does. So if you have a society that has groupthink, where everybody thinks the same, it is absolutely by just fact that some of those beliefs are going to be wrong. So there's nobody to point out those false beliefs. You now have a society.
Well, and how do you advance in society, either socially or even technologically, or in any kind of invention? Any kind of invention is a step away from what is normally accepted. So if you were to groupthink all the time, we'd never have electricity. Yeah.
You'd also have, like I said, you have a permeated.
We wouldn't have gay marriage.
False beliefs that can never be fixed. Exactly.
If everybody agreed and anybody who disagreed got shut down, we wouldn't have gay marriage. We wouldn't have advancement, and black people wouldn't be able to vote and still be slaves, and women would be treated as property.
Because you would never fix the ills of society, because you would never have dissent. And I think that is a hallmark of a functional society. Is dissent.
Anybody who says that people need to agree with them, and then there's problems if you don't agree, like if you get kicked out because you disagree, not for behavior. That's the thing that people don't understand. We don't block people, especially me personally. I don't block people because you disagree with me. I block you because I don't feel like dealing with your dumb ass right now. It doesn't mean that I agree or disagree with you even necessarily. I might agree with you and just not like your attitude at the moment and not feel like goddamn dealing with it. It's arbitrary. But
yeah, I do that frequently, right?
It's about behavior. The main reason I block people is because of their behavior during these kinds of discussions and talks, not what your actual point of view or argument is.
And you're much more willing to have these dialogues with these people. If you want to waste your time with it, I don't judge you for it. By the way, again, I don't go around saying, hey, Chess, you can't talk to this person. It doesn't work this way. She's allowed to talk to anybody she wants, right? So am I. I don't want her to tell me who I can and cannot talk to. But fortunately, the vast majority we think alike on, right? But when she gets in these conversations, okay, I'm not going to bother with it. This is why you don't see me engaging with those people on Twitter. You don't see me engaging with them very often on YouTube. Now, I did last night only because I wanted to show people exactly what I knew to be the case about how dishonest and how unethical a specific person was, right? And by the way, that was demonstrated.
There are exceptions, and there are some cases where you need to nip these things in the bud. I do stand by my criticism because, believe it or not, I gave Steve criticism for what he did the other night.
So did Bull.
Publicly.
God. Yeah, Bull, you, Reds. And it's like, I can't criticize Steve. It's like, well, no, you can't.
But the thing is we didn't attack you for it. Right. We didn't tell you were a bad person. We didn't say you're a beanie poopy head for doing the thing. We were just like, hey, here's some constructive criticism about how, if you're going to do this again in the future, to do it better.
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Weird, right?
Yeah, weird about constructive criticism. I mean, supposing, I can't take constructive criticism. How about this? I don't take constructive criticism when it's not constructive from a dishonest person. I think that
it's not constructive. You can't take constructive criticism if it's not constructive.
Right. I know a lot of these concepts seem foreign to certain people. I just don't think they have the wherewithal and the emotional intelligence or the educational level, whatever it is, to understand that exactly what Cheshire said. It is about behavior, not about what's being said. So that's the biggest thing. If Cheshire tells me something,
they legitimately, we gave them months and they could not figure it out.
But if I have a dishonest agent tell me this and Chess tells me this, right? Well, okay, both of them say the exact same thing. I'll be like, okay, yes, they're right on that. But I'm not going to have a conversation with the dishonest agent about it because they're a dishonest agent. It's about their behavior, not what they said. Right?
Well, and they're not. There's no reason to think that they're looking out for your best interest. There's no reason to think that they're not trying. They're not going to try and fuck you over in some way, shape, or form.
Intent. Yeah, and that's a big thing. Constructive criticism, again, I think this does go to the Maxims and the cooperative principle and charity and all that. If I'm giving constructive criticism to somebody, which people have asked me for, right? People say, hey, Steve, can you evaluate this? I want your opinion on this, whatever. And I'm giving constructive criticism. It's because I want to help them, right?
Right.
Why would detractors give me constructive criticism when none of them want to help me? Right? None of them do.
Well, yeah, when you've got people that have actively gone out of your way and their goal in life apparently is to take you down or whatever it is. Like somebody wants to, my goal is to take this person down a peg. That's not. You'd have more success if your goal wasn't so obvious, for one, and for two. Don't be a dick about it. If you want Steve to change something about his behavior, you have to understand that, or me, or Bull, or any individual. This applies to your relationships and in life. If you want your boss or your coworker or your son or your parent or your significant other to change a behavior or change some kind of attribute, then you need to be able to come to them, don't accuse them. Just say, if you need to, make it about you have a problem, not they have a problem. Say, hey, I'm a little bit uncomfortable. Can we talk about this thing that you're doing and find a solution? And make it about finding a solution, not just you have to stop. Because you have to stop isn't an answer, because this is something that they do. This is something that is part of who they are. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, you need to stop doing art, the f does that mean? You need to stop using this word or using this language. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. Why? But if you come to me and say, hey, this thing that you said made me uncomfortable, and I say, oh, I might have been unclear, here's what I meant, well, then you might accept my explanation, or we can have a discussion about where the disagreement is and maybe come to some kind of resolution about, like, okay, well, you know what, you have some points, I might rethink my position, or vice versa, I might have some points and you might rethink your position, but we come to a compromise. And if it comes to something that along the lines of that, the person is just like, no, I disagree. You have to, when it's something that is part of them and only really affects them, then you need to accept that, no, this is their decision. You need to then make a decision whether you want to deal with it or not. If I go to Steve and I say, hey, Steve, you shouldn't tweet about this thing ever again anymore, and he says, no, I tweet what I want, then I have to accept that. That's his choice. What am I going to do?
But anyways, people like want to get back, and I think we kind of, again, these are very this is a very superficial thing on linguistics here, the cooperative principle and Grice's theory. I mean, it gets a lot more complicated. Even I have a difficult time really understanding where he was going, because again, Grice is not, or he didn't actually say that these are the things that you have to use, right? He didn't prescriptively say these are things. As a matter of fact, he actually, if I remember correctly, doesn't even hold that it should always be used, right? There are times that they shouldn't be. Like, for example, when
and there's also, like, you would prioritize, you might prioritize one over the other. So you might prioritize brevity over quality depending on what it is you're trying to communicate. But there has to be an understanding by both parties that you are trying to communicate something. You're not just saying shit.
Yeah, so
and you need to take that into account.
I have a statement, and people will verify it. I'm like, look, my statement is the truth. I'm telling you the truth here. The people that know me will think about that and go, okay, Steve probably has his reasons why he says this is the truth. What are they? But the dishonest agent says, oh, Steve's lying to you. Then you ask that person, well, what's the lie? Show us where the lie is. And they never actually ever do. Because I start off with the principle is, I'm going to tell you something that's true. I'm not going to tell you something that's false. I'm not going to tweet something that's false. I'm not going to write something that's false. I'm not going to write a blog that contains misinformation. Now, it may happen there might be misinformation, right? I might get something wrong, but then the honest agent says, you got this wrong. Let me show you how to fix this, right? Like, for example, like in a treat feed line, she critiques my blogs. She does editing. When she says, hey, Steve, I think you could word this better, or hey, I think you messed up here, I don't sit there and go, oh, you can't critique me. You can't criticize me. No, because I have her as an editor. I'm like, oh, hey, thank you for pointing that out to me. Let me fix it.
It might be worthwhile to look at the blog about Aaron you linked to me the other day on maybe a supplemental episode to talk about, like, criticism, how to present that criticism, and how to take criticism with a little bit of class and a little bit of to take and understand, like, what is a good way to respond to this and what is a bad way to respond to this. We don't have to talk about necessarily, like, not about Aaron specifically. I just mean about the blog that you sent me about, hey, here's what he got wrong. And so how do you think would be a good way or a bad way to address it?
Okay, in the blog, that my response to Aaron Raw, first of all, his blog, even his own people said was pretty poorly written. Okay, but my response to him was more of I did a little bit of I don't think it was pure it definitely wasn't pure sophistry. Did it involve some sophistry? Yes. But you know what? When you use sophistry correctly, it's a rhetorical device, right? That's all it is. And so I was a little bit being sophistic, but at the same time, I was pointing out the errors of what he said, right? The mistakes that Aaron makes. And by the way, I'm not the only one that's been doing this lately. Aaron's been getting a lot of blogs. Tim O'Neill did a blog on Aaron and pointed out all the things he got wrong in history. I was just on a channel the other day and live.
That was actually the blog I was talking about. The one you linked me recently was the one about history.
Yeah, that was Tim O'Neill's, who's a very well-respected historian on these topics. But I was talking to my friend MJ, who's an actual philosopher, right? He's an actual philosopher, and he was critiquing Aaron's video when he was talking to Dr. John. What was his last? I can never forget this guy. I never remember this guy's last name. But he was talking to a doctor who was a Bible Bible dude, and he is a young creationist. But I mean, his philosophy was spot on. I didn't see any problems with his philosophy, which is weird when somebody knows so much about philosophy, but they get basic science wrong. I don't get it. It's putting faith before reality. But whatever. But anyways, MJ was critiquing what Aaron was saying with this other guy, Chris. And I was in the live chat, and I was critiquing it as well because I've already watched this video a million times. And MJ was like,
I forgot that Aaron talked to Jeranism.
But MJ was like, hey, you know, Steve's here. I really respect his views on these things. And he is, like I said, he's an actual philosopher. And we were agreeing on these things. My critique was the same critique that he had. So anybody that knows about philosophy would probably come up with the same critique, because that has nothing to do with Aaron. It has to do with Aaron not understanding what was being told to him and then being completely evasive on it and completely, I think, disingenuous because he didn't want to be corrected. And yet he was wrong.
So was it John or Don?
John, I think.
Okay, I'm not finding it then.
You know, maybe Biz can remember the guy's name. I keep on having to look it up, but he was talking about categories. He was talking about the fact that the group or the category of animal is a arbitrary group that we have that has been defined to say any object that has these properties we are going to put in that category. You know, chemoheterotropic, you know, somebody that doesn't make their own food, multicellular, internal digestive system. These are properties of an object, but that if they have this, we are going to call this an animal. This is only
it's a social agreement.
This is a social linguistic agreement. There's no ontological fact of the matter to be had there. There's no truth maker. And by the way, MJ wrote a paper on truth makers. I tried to read it. It's way beyond my ability. This guy is a lot smarter than he lets on. And I mean, seriously, that dude is one of the smartest philosophers I know. But he wrote a very, very in-depth thing on truth makers. But
WizBiz says John Mark Ray.
That's his name, John Mark Ray. Thank you, Dr. John Mark Ray. And so Dr. Ray was trying to explain to Reynolds, Dr. Reynolds, yeah, John Mark Reynolds. Reynolds. So Dr. Reynolds was trying to explain to Aaron that there's no ontological matter to be had there because he's saying, look, humans are animals. That's reality. He's like, that's only because of a construct that we have for that. As a matter of fact, if I say to you, Cheshire, hey, I'm doing a fundraiser for animal rights. According to Aaron, if you use his reasoning, that happens to include human rights as well, does it not? But no, we don't mean the word that way, right?
But it's not what they mean.
We're using the word in a different context. That's not what we mean, because the word itself is an artificial designator that we have established to be the container or the group that has the objects of these properties, right?
Sure, but is there a better way to say it? There might be a better way to say it.
The reality is what Warren's trying to get across is, oh, look, we are animals by reality. It's like, no, we're animals by arbitrary definitions in biology, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But an ontological fact would be like, I am taller than Cheshire, right? And by the way, that's not.
Yeah, you could argue though. You might be able to make the argument though that there isn't really a way to define humans out of that category. Right, which I think is a little bit more of Arn's position. It's like we're human, we're animals by necessity because, yeah, sure, the word is a social agreement, but if you were to call all of the things that have these qualities dog, or if you were to call all of these things tree, it doesn't matter because you can't really describe humans out of the category of animal.
Well, you could as a brute animal. We're not brute animals.
Right, but there are other animals that are also not brute animals.
I think
are there not?
If I'm not mistaken, yeah, brute animal is any animal that's not human. If I'm not mistaken, I could be.
Well, then just say that. Okay, so if that is true, if that's the case, then maybe the argument should be there's a better way to say it instead of having animal be the normalized word that we use to describe anything that isn't human. You add the word brute in front of it and say, oh, we're activists for the rights of brute animals. And then it's about talking about changing the social dynamic of how these terms are utilized in normative behaviors and conversation.
I don't take umbrage to that, but do you agree though?
Right.
The fact that humans are animals, there is no truth condition or truth maker to be available for that, right? I mean, a truth maker would be an instantiation of something. If I say dogs.
I don't know. I'm talking to somebody who starts having conversations about whether or not you can know something, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, but I mean, let me clarify for the audience here, then, because we got to end this.
Yeah.
A truth maker would be something, like I said, an instantiation, where you say, what's the truth condition of a dog existing? Well, here's a dog, right? There's an instantiation. There's a physical manifestation of a dog that is instantiation. That I can say there's a truth maker that makes the proposition dogs exist true. Okay, that may mostly correspondence theory of truth. I tend to deflationary, but there is no truth makers, but whatever. But a truth condition is something that, for example, I am taller than Cheshire. That is a truth condition, right? It doesn't take any social agreement for that. That isn't arbitrary.
Okay, but you might say that, okay, so if we're willing to be like, okay, human beings exist, yeah, cool. Human beings have the quality that we are prescribed to have. Or right? Or described to have.
Described, they're actually
so described. So it is a truth that what the word that we use for human describes what we are. Is that a truth? The same way that you're taller than I
am. Well, again, it has to be an actual, if I'm not mistaken, an actual truth condition, right? An actual truth condition.
That's what I'm asking. Is that?
That's hard because
you see what I'm saying? Where it kind of gets exactly, it gets kind of fuzzy when it's like, okay,
what is true?
If this right, exactly. So the the question becomes it's getting into almost now it's starting to turn into almost a semantic argument about whether or not the word animal should be used to describe human beings or not, or if we should just add the word brute in front of it to be more clear in what we're describing. It's changing the normative expectations, right?
But see, Aaron goes into, this is where, then we're going to wrap it up with this. Aaron doesn't apply these principles because he goes into every discussion thinking that the person's doing being dishonest. And there are theists out there that say, well, we're not animals, right? But not all people think that way, right? Not all theists think that way. Most theists that understand biology.
Well, yeah, then your criticism of Aaron comes to not necessarily his arguments. It has to do with his behavior. It's like, hey, Aaron, maybe look a little bit more into who you're talking to before you assume that they're being dishonest, or maybe listen a little bit closer to maybe try to understand a little bit more than trying to be combative, which can go either way. In some cases, Aaron is absolutely correct to be as combative as he is. He is absolutely in the right and absolutely should 100%. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But when you're dealing with somebody who's not talking about what you think they're talking about, if he was talking about what Aaron thought he was talking about, then he'd be in the right. But he wasn't, and Aaron didn't know that. So are you going, like, not you in particular, I mean you in general, going to crucify Aaron for making an error in thinking someone was saying something that they're not? Perhaps the criticism is that, hey, maybe enter a conversation on a little bit of more neutral level and then escalate rather than starting from up here. Because it makes for a better conversation if you end up actually being able to have a conversation. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Helios also corrected us. Did you catch that?
No.
Helios said brute animals are any animals that give birth to groups of babies. Elephants and rhinos are not brute animals either.
Brute.
Oh, brute. I heard brood. Okay, that's why I was confused.
B-R-U-T-E is what I said, brute.
Is brute decided then by level of intelligence? And if so, does that include then octopus, pig, and dolphin or dogs? How would you describe, how do you define? You see what I mean?
A brute animal in archaic. Hang on.
Bonobos?
Brute animal. Hang on. An animal seen as being without human reason, which is any animal, right? I mean, right? A senseless beast.
Well, are you sure?
But again, that's the archaic definition of it. Any animal, an animal seen as being without human reason, which one could argue, if you're not a human, none of them have a reason, right?
Well, do they?
It's almost like a paraphyletic thing, right?
Right, but it's like, are you sure though? Because parrots, octopus,
they don't have human reason. They have some reasoning, but they don't have the level of human, right?
How about bonobos?
It might be. Again, here's the thing: if somebody uses the word, ask what they mean by it. There you go. Hey!
Yeah, that's what I mean. You'd have to, like, that's my question. It's like, now you have to, like, okay, so what counts as human reasoning, and how do you measure that, and how would you be able to recognize it in another animal if it were the case?
There are some tests like the mirror test and stuff like that. But anyways, okay, we're way over time here. Cheshire, what do you got coming up? Show your stuff.
I'll be having a Goblin Reads tomorrow. I might be playing a video game on Wednesday. It depends. I'm not sure. I may actually be setting up for an art stream soon, so that'll be fun. And are we doing anything this weekend?
Well, wait, the weekend's over.
We're counting down. We've got 4 days until maybe something happens, maybe something doesn't happen.
Maybe
also,
something happens.
I will be away next week. So starting on Saturday, at the latest, I will be gone for a week. Then I'll be back.
All right.
I'll be back the following Saturday.
And I got coming up on Wednesday, Over and Under. We got some stuff to talk about, politically wise, which, by the way, has been really interesting because, again, I was never a fan of getting into the political stuff. But I figure, why not? There are some things I do want to talk about, and, Chris did it as well, and I think we get along really well. So watch that at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. We do have our McCope nights on Friday. Actually, on Saturday. It's going to be like a normal thing. Fridays or... somewhat. I think Fridays I might do them, or it could be whenever. I'm doing something called Controversy, where I just pick a topic and just talk about it, right? Not even necessarily something that I have a position on one way or another. Last time was on, what was it, Twitter? What was the last controversy? So the ones I cared about it. Is Twitter hacking actually hacking, right?
I'm trying to decide if I want to read something that's like a little bit more controversial, or if I want to read something that's like a little bit more light and fluffy.
Go for fluffy. I do the controversial this week because I want to be, want to be tackling this week. Maybe there's a whole new kerfluffle going on with the Atheist Alliance, the internet. I guess the International Atheist Alliance over the word. Yeah, over a word, and so that is a major kerfluffle right now. I know David Silverman has weighed in on it. I know Sir Skeptic has weighed in on it. I am still evaluating. Again, the controversy segment that I'm doing doesn't necessarily mean that I support any particular position, although I do think the Twitter hack wasn't an actual hack. It was a social engineering thing, but whatever, just semantic. But, should certain words be vilified? Should there be a call-out culture on it? I have a huge problem with that, even though, I read the guy's blog, and I think that maybe he did double down, but at the same time, is this outrage really something that is justified? I don't know, right? I mean, where does it stop? I mean, should I not use the word idiot because it meant to be a mentally feeble person at one time? Because I know a lot of people.
This goes back to what we were talking about the other day when we were talking about like changing definitions of things for Twitter or whatever, and I was saying that once upon a time, people called somebody with a physical disability crippled. It wasn't. In some cases, it was used derogatory, and in some cases, it wasn't. And then that got changed into disabled, or the next thing that it got turned into, and then it got turned into handicapped to disabled to handicapped. But it changed, right? But it changed. These terms are no longer used to describe a disabled person, but you still can't use it as a derogatory term, which is bizarre to me, because if this word no longer means this thing, why, if I use this word in a derogatory manner, does it mean that I'm referring to this type of person? You see what I'm saying? So if the fabled R word is being used as a derogatory term to mean somebody who is mentally incapable of understanding what's being said, or they're saying something that is incomprehensible, if that word no longer means the person who has a mental disability, why is it being associated, and why can I no longer use the word in regards to that?
Well, and
if I'm no longer
people be able to use
to
it for themselves. Like, for example, I have a Twitter friend. His name's Critical Cripple.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, is he not allowed to describe himself like that if that's what he wants to? Right? I mean, I'm really not in this word policing things, because I think people use word policing as just a weapon to promote a certain ideological position. I'm just not into it. I mean, to me, I don't care what words you use. I don't care. I care about
what
the
you're
context
conveying matters.
Conveyance, exactly. Yeah. Conveyance is the key there. Another C word. We got enough C words though, but yeah, I think we're exactly on the same page on that. But anyways, Dave,
what you're trying to say matters, and that should be taken into consideration when you decide whether or not you want to crucify someone.
Certainly. Continue, Dave. Oh, you got nothing to shill?
Oh. God has spoken. It's time for us to go.
Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Comment, another C word, comment. Thank you.
We could go forever, and everyone knows it. If we wanted to, we could have 2 caffeine corners a week.
I got enough things going on.
We don't want to.
I got 4 things I'm doing weekly now. I also got a math bit I got to do. I'm going to do an integral thing, basic integrals, which I really hated to talk about because I'm just not comfortable with integrals, even though I've done them. But it's going to be one of those things that, hey, look, I'm no expert on this, but I'll give you the basics that I know. But anyways, comments, we look forward to reading them.
Leave us comments of your examples of hypocrisy and add us on Twitter or count when people are correct about hypocrisy and wrong about it. See you guys later.
Bye.